we're starting to let people into the meeting.
Hey, Shane, I have to jump off this device and get on one that has a charge. Let me back in, okay?
The public hearing portion of the meeting will begin soon.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Today is Tuesday, May 11th at 6:26. And first order of business will be our budget hearing. So we will be in our budget hearing portion of our meeting from 6:30 to 6:45. So if there are any questions or anything that the public would like to ask, they can. But Dr. Fehrman will take it from here.
Well, good evening, everyone. Fiscal year 2021 has been challenging and a demanding year. We've had to change quickly and adapt to the virtual environment and at the same time prepare facilities for safe opening with social distancing. The district has spent over $4 million on costs associated with the pandemic. The expenses range from paying salaries for revenue-generating departments, such as our ECLC and school nutrition staff, ensuring facilities and staff were safe by purchasing personal protective equipment and supplies, purchasing technology for virtual learning, purchasing COVID tests, hiring nurses' aides, and implementing learning pods. Our state budget was cut by over $1.3 million, and revenue from school meals, tuition, facility rentals, and interest on investments drastically declined. Through it all, the district has made every attempt to be transparent in our budgetary operations. We've presented budget amendments to the board and publicly discussed each one of these. We have had over 8 recorded budget discussions and have made the recordings of these board meetings and work sessions available to all stakeholders. We have developed a budget link page to solicit, with a form to solicit feedback from our community regarding the budget. We've also placed a link on the district finance page with the FY22 budget information and budget frequently asked questions. Community members about the budget, and additionally, we have made sure to outline the budget process in our newsletters. Moving forward, we intend to use CARES funds for interventions and to temporarily pay expenses that have been traditionally paid out of our general fund. We are committed to the district and to the stakeholders. We are committed to being fiscally responsible and take our role as financial stewards of taxpayer dollars very seriously. I can assure you that we make good decisions to ensure the financial stability of the district, and we will continue to look for areas where we can save money and invest in areas where we need to strengthen. Student achievement is our primary goal, and we will continue to invest in our students. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Ms. Broom.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Fehrman, community, and colleagues. Today, I present to you the fiscal year 2022 tentative budget. Upon the completion of this presentation, stakeholders will have an opportunity to voice their comments. Today is the 8th public budget discussion on the fiscal year 2022 budget. Previous budget discussions on the fiscal year 2022 budget have been held at every regular scheduled board meeting since the month of January. Additionally, budget discussions have been held at various board work sessions. Recorded videos of the budget discussions can be obtained from the district's quick link section of the website under fiscal year 22 budget updates. The final approval, if you could go back to the calendar slide, please. The final approval of the fiscal year 2022 budget and tentative approval of the property tax millage rate is scheduled to take place this evening at the 6:30 regular scheduled board meeting. The district will hold 3 public millage hearings prior to adopting the final property tax millage rate for fiscal year 2022. And they are scheduled for June 8th at 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. and June 22nd at 6:15 p.m. The final adoption of the property tax millage rate is scheduled for June 22nd at a special board meeting at 6:30 p.m. Okay. Next. This evening, the board has 4 different budgets that are being considered for approval. The first budget under consideration for approval is the special revenue funds. The special revenue funds represent grants received from the state and federal sources and are spent on a reimbursable basis, meaning that the district will first make the purchase and submit a request to be reimbursed. Special revenue funds are restricted in that they can only be spent for the project the grants were awarded. The budget for special funds is based on current year's allotment and information received from the grantor. The next slide represents your fiscal year 2022 special revenue funds. The district anticipates on receiving approximately $2.7 million from various grants, including pre-K, Title I, special education, JROTC, and career technical adult education. The second budget under consideration is capital funds. Next slide, please. Funds received for capital funds are referred to as SPLOS and are derived from a 1-cent sales tax on all retail purchases in Decatur County. The district receives an average of approximately $416,000 per month in SPLOS receipts. SPLOS funds are restricted in that they can only be used for capital purchases as specified in the referendum, which required taxpayers' approval. The next slide represents your fiscal year 2022 capital funds budget. The district anticipates on receiving approximately $5 million from SPLOS for the fiscal year 2022. There's also approximately $11.6 million in fund balance for capital funds, which brings the available capital funds balance to approximately $16.6 million. The anticipated spend for the fiscal year 2022 for capital funds is approximately $10.7 million. This leaves the estimated ending fund balance at approximately $5.8 million. The third budget under consideration is the school nutrition funds. School nutrition anticipates on receiving approximately $2.7 million in revenue, with the largest source of revenue being revenue from sales. The second largest revenue source is revenue from federal reimbursements. Next, school nutrition expenditures. The expenditures are aligned with the revenue at an amount of approximately $2.7 million, with the 2 largest expenses being the purchase of food and school nutrition program, which consists of salary. The fourth and largest budget under consideration is general fund. This is the only budget that is not restricted for certain purchases, and that is also the district's main operating budget. Revenue assumptions for fiscal year 2022 include the cut in QBE of approximately $1.3 million. The current budget has also been reduced by approximately $1.3 million, which brings the 2-year total of austerity reductions to approximately $2.6 million. Property tax revenue is projected based on the Georgia State University study of property value in the city of Decatur. The study was conducted prior to the pandemic. Fiscal year 22 property tax revenue projections takes into consideration the current and future homestead exemptions. The millage rate may increase up to a maximum of 21 based on the Georgia State University study. However, the actual tax digest is scheduled to be delivered to the district on or around May 20th. And at that time, we will be able to more accurately project property tax. Next, fiscal year 22 general fund expenditures. The fiscal year 2022 budget includes a staff increase for all eligible employees, an increase for teachers' retirement system, and a minimum number of positions and upgrades. The district has offset approximately $267,000 by reducing operating accounts, which leaves an addition of approximately $1.6 million to the budget, with the largest cost of approximately $1.3 million for staff increases. The next slide represents your fiscal year 2022 general fund budget. The district anticipates approximately $81.6 million in expenses and approximately $77.2 million in revenue. In order to balance the budget, approximately $4.4 million, as listed below under designated funds from fund balance, need to be taken from the projected beginning fund balance, which is anticipated to be approximately $7.7 million. And it's also listed at the bottom. In order to maintain a minimum fund balance of 4%, it is necessary to increase the millage rate from 20.25 to 21. Again, this is the maximum that we anticipate the millage rate will increase. Upon receiving the tax digest from the county, there is a possibility that the millage rate may increase at a lower rate or not increase at all. Next slide shows the fiscal impact that a millage rate of 21 would have on a house with a market value of $600,000. 50% of the market value equates to the assessed value of $300,000. When multiplied by the tentative millage rate of 21, the annual school tax before any exemption would be $6,300. This is the annual increase of property tax of $225. Again, this is worst case scenario. The next slide shows a visual breakdown of each of the 4 budgets I have presented to you. As you can see, the general fund is by far the largest fund and make up over 83% of all 4 budgets. The next slide represents the tentative fiscal year 2022 budget for all 4 district funds. That will conclude the public budget hearing presentation.
Thank you so much, Lanita. So we will stay in our budget hearing for another 8 minutes. And do we have any public comment, Shayna?
We do. Hans Utes.
Okay.
Hans.
Yep, I'm here. Can everybody hear me? Great. So thank you for your time. Lanita, thank you for that presentation. And I just wanted to make a couple comments comparing the last few years to this year's budget. So if we look from 2016 till now, our proposed taxes based on this budget are approximately 40% higher than what we saw in 2016. And when you take a look at comparable systems like Marietta City Schools, for example, you see that their change is less than half that. And in fact, the principal driver of the increased taxes in that system is student enrollment growth. Our student enrollment growth over that period of time is about 15%. So we're increasing taxes well more than double the rate that our student enrollment has grown. Our cost per student for instructional expense is very much in line with comparable high quality systems. We're all within a few $100s of each other. But our operating costs are between $700 and $1,000 more per student than other comparable systems. Our overhead and operating costs have grown over 30% over that period of time, including 60% for school administration, about 50% for maintenance operations, and a whopping 125% in central office. I'm pleased to see in this budget that there is a small reduction being anticipated in central office, but it's still over double what it was 5 years ago. On top of that, appropriation spend has been extremely volatile. We've moved from less than 1% in some years to well over 11%. That represents a $12 million shift in what we've drawn from in appropriation. And I worry that spend down has been, in some cases, operationalized, which is what would explain some of these large increases in numbers. I'm pleased to see a 5-year budget plan. Thank you very much, Lenita, for that. But I would also obviously like to see the narrative that goes along with that. So I have 3 primary questions. The first is, we have plenty of student performance metrics to track our instructional quality. I would ask the administration and the board, what overhead budget metrics do you plan to track going forward to manage some of these operational costs? What steps are you planning to take to bring some of these overhead costs into line? And now that we have new leadership in place, what can you tell the community regarding some of these inflationary costs and how you plan to do things perhaps differently from previous leadership regarding the budget? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Hans.
Next person will be Susan Camp. Susan?
Hi. As the board and Dr. Fehrman know, I've been calling into every single budget meeting that there has been. I was a little surprised to see how differently the discussion went last month at the initial adoption of the tentative budget. Well, first of all, would really like to thank Ms. Broom. She's always incredibly responsive, and I have learned a lot in her public presentations. She's done an excellent job of explaining the process and what goes where. And as someone who self-confessed not a budget finance person, she has made it all very easy to follow and understand. So I appreciate that. And I also appreciate the effort that was made in the last meeting to bring the millage rate increase that was originally being proposed throughout the entire process down to something that's much more palatable at, by an increase of only 0.75 when it was looking for a while that it was going to be a 2.0 increase. Now, my concern here is that there were a number of items that were being proposed as part of the programming for the budget for fiscal year 22 that I personally didn't think that we should be spending money on. And so between the budget that was last discussed publicly in March and the one that was last discussed in April, the team obviously went through some and made some significant cuts, cutting expenses down to $2.8 million. And of course, that's obviously what had to happen in order to reduce that millage rate increase. So I want to know what was cut. Are we still planning to hire a director of remediation at central office? What were the, my understanding this whole time is that there was already an expectation the operational budget was being cut by 5%. So where did the other $2.8 million come from? I want to ensure that those are not cuts that are going to directly impact the student experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Camp. We have no more public comments pertaining to budget.
Okay, thank you, Shayna. We just have one more minute for our budget hearing.
I'm sorry, someone just raised their hand. Kunle would like to speak.
Okay.
Mr. Organay? You can.
Okay, so Shayna, my question was, are we in the Board of Education meeting or in the budget hearing
Sorry,
meeting?
we're in the budget meeting.
Oh, sorry. Okay, all right. So my public comment is for Board of Education meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we are now adjourned for our budget hearing meeting. Are we logging back? Are we logging? Not. We're just gonna, okay. So we've ended at 6:45, and now we are logging into our public portion of our school board meeting for May 11th, and we are starting today at 6:45. Thank you to everyone that has joined us. We have all of our board members here, Dr. Fehrman, our superintendent, superintendent assistant, as well as our legal counsel. So we will start with a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you. And for all who are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we would like to start our meeting off on a very good note, a very high note. We are going to vote our new superintendent in for the next school year. So do I have a motion to vote in our new superintendent for another year contract?
Move to approve one-year contract for Dr. Maggie Fehrman for the 21-22 school year.
Second.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. So it looks like we have a new superintendent. Welcome. So we need to do your oath. Are you ready?
Ready.
Right hand up, please. I state your name.
I, Maggie Fehrman,
Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will truly perform
do solemnly swear that I will truly perform
the duties of local superintendent of the Decatur City School System
the duties and responsibilities of the Decatur City School System
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I do further swear or affirm
I do further swear or affirm
that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money
that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for money
due this state or any political subdivision
due this state or any political subdivision
or authority thereof,
or authority thereof,
that I am not the holder of any office of trust
that I am not the holder of any office of trust
under the government of the United States,
under the government of the United States,
any other state or any foreign state,
any other state or any foreign state,
which I am by the laws of the state
which I am by the laws of the state
of Georgia prohibited from holding,
of the laws of Georgia prohibited from holding,
that I am otherwise qualified to hold said office
that I am otherwise qualified to hold said office
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and the laws of Georgia,
and the laws of Georgia,
and that I will support the Constitution
and that I will support the Constitution
of the United States and of this state.
of the United States and of this state.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so let's get started with our meeting. Let's look, looking at the last meeting minutes for our April 20th meeting. Any changes? All right. And we didn't have a work session last month, did we? No, I don't think so. Felt like we did. All right, so we can go ahead and start with our highlights. Go ahead, take it away, Dr. Fehrman.
Right, we have two highlights this month, and our first highlight is Claremont Elementary. And I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Armour, the amazing principal at Claremont, to share a little bit of the great things that go on in the halls of Claremont every day.
Good evening to our superintendent, Dr. Fehrman, members of the board, my CSD colleagues, and community stakeholders. My name is Dr. Curtis Armour Jr., and I am honored to serve as principal of Claremont Elementary School. Claremont Elementary is an EL education credentialed school. In the EL education model, leadership is a collaborative, dynamic effort toward a common vision for teaching and learning. EL Education's Core Practice 35 outlines the steps to promoting shared leadership. In addition to creating the conditions for the entire crew to learn, Claremont administrators create collaborative conditions for all staff to lead. By creating high-functioning, data-informed, impact-oriented school teams, the Claremont crew builds their personal and collective capacity to drive improvement across the school. We are proud to share with you a glimpse of the many magnificent initiatives being led by our dynamic staff.
Well, it looks like we might be having some technical difficulties. Is there supposed to be a video playing, Dr. Curtis?
It should be. Ms. Bruton was queuing up the video for us.
Okay. While Shayna is working on that for the second spotlight, is there a video for that one as well, or is it just a presentation?
Yeah, let's go ahead while she's figuring that out. Mr. Sproul, you want to go ahead and share your presentation about the Decatur Career Academy? We've had several community members asking for more information about the Career Academy, so I thought this would be a great opportunity for Mr. Sproul to highlight the great things that they do in his department. So, all right, Wayne, then all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Fehrman. I also have a video, but I'll go ahead and do my lead in while we're queuing up the videos. It's been 5 years since I spoke with the board. I'm sorry, let me start over. Good evening, I'm Dwayne Sproul. I'm the director of the Decatur Career Academy, and I want to thank the board and Dr. Fehrman for inviting me tonight. I was so excited, as our principal, Ms. Lostrom, would tell you. I even talked to Ms. Huddleston on the way to the car yesterday, I believe, about my excitement about presenting tonight, because it's been, like I said, 5 years. The Decatur Career Academy was founded in July 2011. So it's 10 years of the Career Academy at this point. When I created my video, and I just kind of rolled through the whole thing as I created it, it ended up being 30 minutes long. So that was not gonna work. And so I started to trim, and I continued to trim, and I got it down to around 10 minutes, which Ms. Lofstrom was happy with. So the focus of my video, it talks about the Decatur Career Academy and our pathways that's offered here in our building. It talks about dual enrollment, and in particular, our early college program, which is one of our equity initiatives in the Career Academy. We also talk about the IB career program and how that benefits students that want a rigorous curriculum, in addition to having, at the same time, that opportunity to study a career. And then finally, we talk about work-based learning and how students are able to go out into the community, whether it's the Decatur cafeteria, for the city of Decatur, or at Kumon, or various other sites, and show what they've learned in class in the field of work. So that's what the video focuses around. And I tried to highlight 3 students. And what's wonderful about the videos were not created for the board. They were created as a recruiting tool for students transitioning from their sophomore year into their junior year, or from their junior year into their senior year. So that's the focus of the presentation tonight. And are we ready to roll, or? Hello, I'm Dwayne Sproul, Decatur Career Academy Director and Career and Technical Education Director for the City Schools of Decatur. Career Technical and Agriculture Education in Georgia falls under the Georgia Department of Education, while the Career Academies in Georgia fall under the Technical College System of Georgia. Although independent, in many ways they serve the same roles, including technical instruction, pathway completion, middle school transition to high school transition to post-secondary, and other career-related. The Decatur Career Academy Advisory Committee is comprised of educators and business and industry professionals, as well as members of the Department of Labor. These individuals meet monthly with Career Academy staff and provide feedback and opportunities for Career Academy students. Decatur Career Academy offers 11 pathways and work-based learning as opportunities for students to increase their technical skills. Architecture, drawing and design, and culinary arts are 2 most popular pathways. Students are deemed to be pathway completers once they have completed all 3 courses in a particular pathway. These students will then sit for the end of pathway assessment given by the Georgia Department of Education. In 2018-2019, the Decatur Career Academy can boast of an 84% pass rate on the end of pathway assessment. Each pathway has a career and technical student organization associated with their curriculum. Students can not only compete at the regional, state, and national levels related to their technical skills, but also employability skills and presentation skills. Work-based learning provides students the opportunity to earn and learn at the same time. We developed a partnership that was set to begin with Emory Non-Clinical, in which 10 students would have a rotating experience at Emory that was put on pause due to the pandemic. We hope to bring that program back in the 2022-2023 school year. One work-based learning employer stated, "The candidates that I have received from you are exponentially stronger employees than those who come outside of the work-based learning program."
Hi, I'm Megan Jansen, and I was in the architecture, drawing, and design pathway at Decatur High School. So my work-based learning placement really assisted me in wanting to do landscape architecture, as I didn't really know what I wanted to do before this. I mean, I knew I wanted to do something in the design and architecture field, but I hadn't narrowed it down yet. And having 2 internships that were specialized and different really allowed me to widen my skills, but narrowed my search on what job I wanted to do.
These are a few of our work-based learning placements. Many of these employers bring back students year after year to work in their facilities. Dual enrollment provides students the opportunity to earn college credits while still in high school. We have a number of schools we work with in the dual enrollment program at the technical and four-year college level. Some of our specialized programs include the Georgia State Early College Program. We partner with Georgia Piedmont Technical College in the Computer Science Department this year as a bridge until we expanded our computer science program. And we're bringing back the Georgia Piedmont Technical College Certified Nursing Assistance Program for the fall of 2021. Option B provides an alternate option for students to seek graduation from high school while participating in dual enrollment.
Hi, my name is Morgan Miles and I'm a senior. I'm a part of the early college program at Georgia State in downtown Atlanta, which is a part of the dual enrollment program. I was encouraged to apply to the early college program through an email that I received from Mr. Sproul. Before finding out about the early college program, I was already leaning toward doing dual enrollment because I wanted to earn college credits while being in high school. The early college program provides benefits to make sure students stay on track with their college workload. Being a part of the early college program, I am required to attend mandatory study sessions twice a week to work on any of my college assignments and also to receive help if needed from my study coach. Also, I am required to attend a 1-hour touch-in meeting once a week with my advisor at Georgia State to receive information about upcoming events within the early college program and also to touch base on how I'm doing academically. To date, I have received 24 college credits. You are also responsible for your grades. In high school, most teachers are understanding and provide multiple chances to make up tests and assignments, but in college, you are held accountable whether you miss a test or assignment.
Decatur Career Academy addresses equity and access in various ways. Through career and technical instruction, special education teachers push into career and technical classrooms and provide support to students in those classrooms. The Georgia State Early College Program addresses 4 main categories of students to increase those students' enrollment at Georgia State as a part of the dual enrollment program. Having Georgia Piedmont Technical College courses on our campus provides students the opportunity to take up to 12 hours of college credits without having to leave the high school campus. The IB Career Program provides students the opportunity to earn a certificate that focuses around career studies and rigorous academic work. The IB Core consists of personal professional skills course, service learning of 50 hours over 2 years, the Reflective Project as a replacement for the Senior Project, and language development. Included in these requirements are the Decatur Career Academy requirements, which are pathway completion, successfully passing the end of pathway assessment, and completing a work-based learning internship directly connected to your program of study.
Hello, my name is Caroline Putman. I'm a senior at Decatur High School, and I'm part of the IB Career Program on a Convergence Media Pathway. One of the things that initially compelled me to join this program is the fact that I've known from a very young age that I wanted to pursue media and communications in my future. So when I got to the high school and I learned that I would have the opportunity to pursue this career interest of mine at an academic level, I was instantly enthralled because I knew that otherwise I would not have the opportunity to do so until college. Another thing that really drew me into the program is the fact that I'm involved in a multitude of extracurriculars here at Decatur. I am captain of our school's debate team, an editor for our magazine and website, and I stage manage for all of the Decatur High School theater productions. Another thing that's really interesting about the career program is our final project. It is a research paper that each of us will write about our pathway, about our career pathway. So I'm currently writing a paper on the ethics of financing in digital media. And I've learned so much through writing and researching this paper, and it's really opened my eyes to so many issues and so many things to be aware of when entering this industry. Another thing, and arguably the thing that I found most appealing about the program, is the fact that every single student is required to have an internship their senior year. So I'm currently interning at the Decatur Education Foundation as their communications intern. It has been such a wonderful experience for me. I've learned so much about running a brand social media and how to understand like what goes into that and what goes into scheduling what you need to post. And it has been just a really amazing opportunity for me, and I have learned so much from it.
Decatur Career Academy has several highlights for this school year. We received computer science grants totaling $39,000. I presented at the Big Hill Black Alliance Student Leadership Series and brought a 2019 graduate that is now in the Navy and a video that she created and presented about her naval experience. We have virtual field trips, one to Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the architecture students, and then for culinary, myself along with some of our advisory members teamed up to go to Scout in Oakhurst and have Chef Crystal give a presentation and answer some questions from students virtually. Then we had career talks in March and April of this year, and career talks consisted of over 120 community members virtually coming in on panels and presenting to students during advisement. I would like to acknowledge our middle school career and technical instructors, our Decatur Career Academy instructors, middle school and high school Career Academy and CTA instructors. Many of them also serve in capacities as club sponsors and coaches of athletic teams outside of our programs. I want to honor Dr. Charlie McAdoo, who is currently serving as an inclusion, access, equity, and diversity mentor for the Association of Career Technical Education and was featured in the April 2021 Techniques magazine. Completing our comprehensive local needs assessment last school year, 3 areas stuck out as areas for growth: increasing membership in the career and technical student organizations, increasing opportunities in computer science and healthcare, finally beginning the process of industry certification of our programs.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Thank you.
Next up, we will finally see the Claremont video. My apologies to Claremont Elementary.
The EL education model supports shared leadership among all its teachers in order to build opportunities that inspire students to celebrate joy in learning and to build a school-wide learning community of trust and collaboration.
Crew meetings is one example where grade level teachers collaborate with support teachers or special area teachers to plan and facilitate crew experiences for students that support building relationships through
collaboration and joyful competition,
habits of character,
and social-emotional learning activities that foster empathy and caring,
or concerns about behavior such as bullying or exclusion, and also the celebration of positive behavior.
Here is an example of crew in a virtual setting.
Happy Friday and welcome to Community Circle.
Claremont Community Circles have helped our students in the virtual environment this year. They were always important, but in this unique school year, Community Circle has really pulled our school and staff together. As specials teachers, we work together to share leadership on developing community circles with a collective knowledge of what has been happening in the classrooms, in virtual and in-person settings. The Community Circle crew exchange ideas every week, and we share thoughts about what should go into each weekly program. Students are always involved in a big part of Community Circle. They do a welcome, they lead the Pledge of Allegiance, they do the school motto, and they also include a joke of the day and habits of character. Claremont students always are featured in educational highlights, and we also feature student artwork. Staff and students look forward to community circles every Friday. They're important because they impact student achievement, and they also improve school morale with both teachers and students. Everyone looks forward to Friday's community circle at Claremont.
PBIS leadership team made the decision that we wanted to collaborate with the community circle team to give more students the opportunity to receive recognition. Each homeroom teacher selects 2 students that have exemplified a habit of character or scholarship for the week, and they place the information in a shared spreadsheet. This information is then placed into a Google slide for each grade level, and it's placed in the community circle video to announce our Bulldogs of the Week. Having the opportunity to possibly be named Bulldog of the Week has really made our students even more intentional about displaying their habits of character and scholarship.
Why are small groups important?
The kindergarten team feels that small groups are a great way to meet all the needs of the children through differentiated instruction.
How do you provide support in making sure that the instruction in small groups is effective?
We do formal and informal assessments daily and weekly to ensure students are mastering the standards. We reflect on the assessments and adjust instruction as needed.
What data do teams use to inform our small group instruction?
We use star rating, math, foundations assessments, informal daily assessments in small groups, the writing rainbow, and quick checks. As a crew, we analyze data from formative and summative assessments. We also look at student work and discuss next steps for students. Some of our action plans include improving teaching strategies, reteaching, implementing academic interventions, providing extensions, and providing flexible grouping. We regularly assess and revise action plans based on new data.
How are the responsibilities shared in reaching students in small groups?
With the large number of students in virtual classrooms, this created a unique opportunity. All of the specials and support teachers came together as crew to teach ELA and math small groups in the virtual classrooms.
How do we know if the small group instruction is making a difference?
We know small group instruction is making a difference because the students master the assessments and meet the standards. They can confidently explain how their knowledge meets the learning target.
EIP is an important part of providing additional instructional supports to students at Claremont who are not yet meeting grade level standards. The EIP teachers at Claremont regularly lead collaborative meetings with classroom teachers to review benchmark, formative, and summative assessment data and use the data to develop action plans, flexible small group, and individual intervention for students in need of additional support to meet the grade level standards in the shortest time possible. Students enter and exit the program when data indicate that students need support or they've met grade level benchmarks. This flexible process ensures students get the support that they need when they need it. EIP supports include hands-on, arts and movement-infused learning experiences that preview, reteach, and remediate grade level concepts in an engaging way.
Equity versus equality. You might be wondering, don't these mean the same thing? They look the same and sound similar. However, there is a distinct difference. Equality means each individual or group of people have the same rights, opportunities, and resources, and are treated the same regardless of need. Whereas equity is the idea of leveling the playing field. The purpose of the Claremont Equity Committee is to promote engagement among school staff to examine and discuss potential biases and practices that disproportionately impact student learning and school climate. The Equity Committee collaborates by establishing an atmosphere where diverse perspectives are welcome. The committee encourages input and feedback from team members while empowering members to take the lead to facilitate activities related to teen initiatives that complement their pedagogical interest. For example, there are two initiatives that we focus on this year: the Equity Read-Alouds and the Staff Book Study.
The purpose of our monthly Equity Read-Alouds is to offer a student-facing experience that highlights the beauty in diversity and give all our students a chance to see themselves at the center of a learning experience. This year, we chose these books because they helped us to take a deeper look at race and the biases that we hold based on the color of our skin. It allowed us to talk about our differences and celebrate our beautiful skin tones. For example, we encouraged each other and felt proud when we posted our power poses when we read "I am every good thing." We explored concepts such as accepting diverse cultures, traditions, and families. This month, we will continue our journey and celebrate Asian cultures and the myriad of beautiful people in our community. We'll be leading a conversation on assimilation. We hope we are planting the seeds of compassion, responsibility, engagement, and respect, as we are the crew and not passengers.
The purpose of the staff book study is to engage colleagues in meaningful dialogue and activities about race, diversity, equity, and inclusion. These discussions are facilitated by equity team members during our bi-monthly Equity Spotlight and staff meetings. This fall, the Equity Committee led a faculty-wide book study of the text, "Those Kids Are Out of Control: Why We Must Reimagine Classroom Management for Equity." In the book, the authors explore ways in which educators can confront and change both implicit and institutional biases embedded in traditional classroom management practices.
The Claremont Elementary Instructional Leadership Team is a diverse group of teacher leaders who are continuous learners, collaborative, and have a shared understanding of effective teaching and learning. Approaching our instructional goals as a collective leads to effectively assessing the progress of teachers and students and making adjustments as needed. The ILT identifies a narrow student learning problem and works to adjust teaching practices to improve student outcomes. In order to be successful, the school leaders support the ILT's work toward a common vision and ensure that the ILT speaks with one voice on the school's approach to teacher leadership and collaboration. Annually, the Instructional Leadership Team works with our EL Education School Designer to review the previous year's student achievement data to construct our EL work plan for the coming school year. Here we identify goals in the areas of mastery of skills and knowledge, character development, and high-quality work, and chart the course of action that the school will follow to show growth in each of these areas.
Thank you so much for that video, both Dwayne and Dr. Curtis. Thank you for sharing that with us. Always my favorite part of our school board meeting. So now we'll move to our public comments. Shana, how many do we have? Oh, thank you, Shana. Okay, just a reminder that you have 3 minutes for your public comments. Please state your name and your affiliation with the City of Schools of Decatur or City of Decatur. And keep your comments general. If there are any specific people or personnel that you do need to speak about, we do have other avenues for that. So thank you so much ahead of time. And Shana, we can go ahead and start with the first comment.
First person up will be Miss Lorraine Eyre. Eyre.
Hi, did you say Lorraine Eyre? My phone is going in and out, so I'm hoping you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Good evening, Mormon members. I'm Lorraine Eyre, and I have 2 kids in the City Schools of Decatur at Oakhurst and Faith. And as you all know, this is Asian American Heritage Month. And because I'm also Asian American, I wanted to highlight some of the issues and then also make a couple asks of you all. I know we are doing some work related to Asian American Heritage Month, but I really feel like we need to do a little more and integrate that into our curriculum in schools and also have better representation. As you know, or may not know, Asian Americans are the fastest growing minority group in the United States and Georgia. We are part of this community and we've been here for a very long time. You know, racial issues in our community are not just black and white. We want to support the work of the Black leaders in our community for Black students, but we also want to highlight that Asian Americans are also experiencing racism, and it's different and needs to be addressed differently. Like I said, we specifically want meaningful curriculum changes to reflect our history and representation in staffing. I think often there's this model minority myth, an assumption that Asian Americans don't face racism and are excelling in professions like math and science, which is not entirely true. The Asian American community is not monolithic, it's diverse. We include Chinese, Koreans, Vietnamese, Indians, and Pakistanis. We have deep roots in America, and we, you know, just looking at some of the history myself, I was shocked to learn that we have Asian Americans and Chinese Americans coming to the United States in the 1800s, despite, you know, a racist immigrant laws that prevented them from obtaining citizenship. I can't tell you how many times, even as an American who was born here, how often I've been asked, where am I from? Or my children have been asked where I've been from. So we need to expand this concept of what is American for our children. There has been some, you know, Asian American history that's been delivered to my kids, and I'm happy to hear that. Like at morning meetings at Oakhurst, they've done a bit of that. But I really want to see that it's more integrated into the curriculum for my students. That's the only way we can confront Asian racism. I mean, we just recently had an attack on the community here in Atlanta, and we've barely talked about it in our community. So, you know, if we're not going to do it now, when are we going to do it? So again, my main asks are that we consciously look to increase staffing representation of Asian Americans to represent our diverse community. I think our population has more than doubled in Decatur when I was looking at the numbers. So that's the only way that we can combat stereotypes and have meaningful change. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lorraine. Next up is Ms. Susan Camp. Ms. Camp.
Hi, thank you. I saw that, I guess in conjunction with swearing in Dr. Fehrman as our superintendent, I also saw that on the agenda, you are going to be approving her contract. And I appreciate that in a spirit of transparency, that was posted as one of the agenda items available for public consumption. I'm concerned, as we know, the issue around a superintendent contract has been the crux of what a lot of people in the community perceive to be problems with oversight of the superintendent. And I'm concerned that this contract is not really been updated. The language hasn't been changed in a way that makes it clear what the minimum work days are required for our superintendent. I'm also concerned that there seems to be a pay increase that is disproportionate to the situation based on public records that are available from fiscal year 2020 and what was stipulated in the contract. We're looking at a total salary increase for promotion of like nearly 57%. And that is just highly unusual. Even in corporate jobs, they are limited. Pay increases are limited, even for promotions by 12%, and anything over that requires, you know, special approval. I'm just concerned that we are not really in a financial state to be offering such generous packages at this time, especially when it's for a new in position role. And it's also not in line with state averages. We're a relatively small district, and the average superintendent salary in the state of Georgia was $172,000 a year. The median was $159,000 and $225,000 a year. So this is significantly above what is market for this state. I don't think it's reasonable to compare us to other metro districts because we do not have the same student body size and we do not have the same operating budgets. So I would highly encourage our board to really tighten up the language around what the expectations are, offer a package that's more in line and commiserates with the actual experience and the certain circumstances and reflects the true fiscal responsibility that you guys are claiming is your priority now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Camp. Next up will be Sims, Kanika Sims. Ms. Sims, you're unmuted.
Yes, hello?
Yes, you can speak now.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Dr. Kanika Sims, and first I just wanted to thank the board for taking decisive action as it relates to the leadership of our school district. I'd also like to thank Dr. Duty for stepping down and Dr. Fehrman for her willingness to accept this position. I would like to ask the board what our plans are moving forward as it relates to our superintendent. I do understand that Dr. Fehrman will be given a one-year contract. What will happen at the end of that 1 year? What will happen during this year? Will we have a national search for a superintendent? I may have missed communication around that point, but I have not seen it. Our school district really deserves a leader who is dynamic, progressive, empathetic, and has a proven track record of elevating school districts to new heights. We have an amazing community. It is made all that much more amazing by the school system. And we need a leader who can restore faith in our school system and truly propel this school district into the future. I have pulled all 3 of my children out of CSD for the next school year because after this dismal year, I do not possess faith in the leadership of this system. And I'm only one of many families who've done this. My children are only 3 of likely hundreds of children who will not be returning to CSD next year. Our community deserves a school district that rivals that of our surrounding private schools. Our children deserve a school district that will meet the needs of all of our children, from children with dyslexia and other learning differences to those who excel academically and everywhere in between. I speak for many when I say that as a Black parent, it is exhausting to have to always advocate for my children to ensure that they're not being marginalized and have equal access within this district. Our Black children deserve to be in a district where they are celebrated. I would love to be in a district where I don't have to explain over and over again how certain policies alienate us and our families. It would be amazing to have a leader who doesn't simply give lip service to equity, diversity, and inclusion because these are the current buzzwords. It would be amazing to have a leader who simply gets it. It would be amazing to have a leader that values all of our children, regardless of ethnicity, and values all of our families, regardless of socioeconomic status. A leader who has a proven track record as a superintendent, someone who can make those of us leaving the district excited about returning. So in closing, I want to reiterate my hope that the school board is planning to do a nationwide search to find a superintendent who can be the leader that our district deserves. This is a wonderful opportunity to accomplish that goal. Thank you again, school board, and thank you, Dr. Fehrman, for your willingness to lead this year.
Thank you, Dr. Sims. Next up is Ms. April Biagioni. Ms. April.
Hi. I'm concerned about what's the plan for our Spanish program at this point. Since 2016, our Spanish has dropped from 5 days a week to 3 days. And I'm concerned that Spanish is going to go from 3 30-minute sessions to 2 30-minute sessions. I want to know how our teachers are supposed to add 30 minutes of Spanish to their week. And if we are reducing the budget by reducing our Spanish teachers. Currently, our classroom teachers are not typically native speakers or are fluent in Spanish. Currently, our classroom teachers have full plates already. And so I would like some clarity on what the future of our Spanish curriculum is going to be. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public section.
Shana, didn't Kunle want to speak?
Okay, I have Kunle, yes. He's raised his hand to speak. Kunle? Kunle, you can speak now.
Hi, this is Won-Hee Shen. May I speak now? Hello?
Yes, you may.
Okay, thank you. Hi. I'm glad to speak here tonight. My name is Won-Hee Shen, and I am speaking to you as a Korean American mother of 3 CSD students. First of all, I like to make it clear that this is not a comparison nor a competition of which racial group has it worse. As done so in history, we fully support Black, Latinx, and Indigenous neighbors in their fight. However, our history is unique, and invisibility, perpetual foreigner, and model minority myth among Asian Americans are real, even in CSD. Many believe that we do not face racism. When COVID-related racist plaques were pasted with industrial glue around Atlanta last year, one Oakhurst neighbor minimized the incident on social media, calling it newfound racism, and she's incorrect. Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, the first federal law to bar immigration based on ethnicity alone, Japanese American internment 120,000 Japanese Americans forced to concentration camps during World War II, Chinese massacre of 1871, lynching of 19 people of Chinese heritage, the largest documented mass lynching in U.S. history. Atlanta spa shooting, 6 women of Asian descent were murdered a little over a month ago in our own backyard. Our community did not receive any timely message of solidarity from the district. The most we received were typically days delayed messages from principals, quote, tucked away in a newsletter, end quote, as another parent commented. And the message was clear, we're invisible here. And as my son expressed in 2nd grade about CSD, he said, everything is black and white, they don't care about people like me. May is AAPI Heritage Month, and there is inconsistent recognition among all of our schools, and some mean well, but only highlight stereotypes and tokens. Education is vital. We need substantial change in the curricula. As our district revisits K-2 curricula and the teachers plan for the following year, remember that hate against Asian Americans is not new, but will continue in new forms if honest history is not taught. Since we do not have Asian American representation within our staff currently, consulting with AAPI history experts and involving community members with planning are necessary. Otherwise, there will be far too many blind spots by well-meaning individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to try Kunle again.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So, Kunle Ogunaye, I'm the parent of 2 children in 9th grade and 6th grade. And I also did submit a public comment form. My first comment is regarding the role of our district attorneys, Wilson, Morton, and Downs, regarding the lawsuits and the problems we faced over the last year or so. Based on the reporting in Decatur-ish, David Adams and Susan First expressed reservations about the superintendent's conduct to the district attorneys, maybe 2017 or 2018. It appears no action was taken. I have to ask, did the district attorneys advise us appropriately? And the district attorneys are supposed to provide crisis management. Last year, the last 8 months has just been a disaster, and it didn't need to get to this. So how culpable are our district attorneys? I would love to hear from them. And I hope they don't hide behind or we can't see because there are legal matters. There's got to be some sort of explanation. There should be a root cause analysis for why things went so badly over the last 8 months. And my second comment is regarding communication and family engagement. And I would like to commend one of the teachers at Renfrew Middle School, Mr. Johnny Stroy. He's the math teacher for 6th grade. He gives the students a workbook, worksheets for each unit of work that they are doing. So they have a workbook that they follow that parents can look at. And he also issues a robocall every week, letting us know what units the children are working on. This is in addition to the emails that get buried. But having the workbook and the robocalls it's a game changer, and it helps me as a parent stay engaged with the work that my child is doing. And I would encourage city schools of Decatur to expand that sort of methodology, that communication mechanism to all teachers and all classes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Final person for public comment.
I'm sorry, say that again, Shana?
The final person for public comment.
Okay, thanks, Shana. Awesome, so that concludes our public comment, and so we will move to our superintendent comment.
Shana, can you enable me to share my screen? I have a presentation. Well, I'm so excited to be sitting here as a superintendent for City Schools of Decatur, and as I've said before, I'm just honored and humbled to have this opportunity to help lead our district through this turbulent times. And I wanted to take some time today to, as on the heels of several appreciation weeks, to give our staff some shout outs. And then I also want to celebrate all of our students, as well as some highlights of our graduating class. I'm going to share information about our Launchpad for Learning Camp, which we will launch this summer, and then share more details about the final mitigation strategies for next school year and our plans for next school year, as well as highlight a final opportunity for parents to sign up for a emergency broadband benefit. So first, I want to highlight our amazing staff. I had the opportunity last week to visit all 10 of our schools, and I can tell you we have such amazing staff, from our custodial teams to our school nutrition workers to our bus drivers to our teachers. It is just an amazing team. Our principals, our assistant principals, instructional coaches, everyone that we employ is just amazing. And most of the elementary schools that I went to, I got there pretty early, well before the start time of kids, and sometimes even before the teachers' reporting hours. And I can tell you our teachers are in the classrooms early, working with kids via Zoom, having independent tutoring sessions. It was just amazing to see our staff hard at work. Our buildings are meticulous. I have not seen a speck of dust anywhere in our buildings. Stopped and talked to several bus drivers as well, and they were in the midst of cleaning their buses in between routes, and just wanted to make sure everyone I met knew how much I appreciated their hard work and dedication to our students. So highlighted some pictures here of what school looked like for our staff. That's a little different than what we're typically used to. And some highlights here, at Glenwood earlier in the year for Halloween, they did a virtual book parade. They were thanking their students at Winona Park from a distance drive-through, and then even the virtual learning classes were keeping our students engaged. But I also want to celebrate our students. This has been a really tough year for our kids. And as a school district, we focus on the IB learner profile as our end result for what we hope to see our students achieve. And throughout the past couple weeks, I've had some pictures sent to me and some opportunities to engage with our students, and it's just been a lot of fun for me to be in the classroom and see our kids. So our CSD students, they persevere. And this is a snapshot from Westchester Elementary on their Perseverance Day. And even though they are masked, they're all wearing their Perseverance shirts, and we're just having a great time. It was such a fun experience to tour Westchester. This is a picture from Oakhurst. The students they're inquiring. So even though we are social distancing and we are wearing masks, we are still engaging in hands-on learning and having a great time and having our students really raised to that level of critical thinking. And our students are caring. I went to the opening for the new Student Center launch, and it was just amazing to see our high school students reaching out and dedicating their time to helping open this center and have it just be an amazing place for our students to be. And our students are balanced. They don't just focus on academics, they don't just focus on sports, they don't just focus on one thing. Our students are very well-rounded and have opportunities to engage in lots of various activities throughout the school year. And I love that CSD really supports a well-rounded education program where we're developing the whole child. And our students are risk takers. Really want to highlight and shout out our Student Government Association from the high school. Took it upon themselves to organize, propose, went through all the processes, managed the whole day, a student field day for our high school students. And it was just an awesome experience to have the kids interact with each other in a fun and exciting way. We know our students have had very little opportunity to engage socially with each other, and this was a wonderful opportunity for our kids to get out there and just really get to know each other and have that reconnect with each other. So it was a great opportunity. So I want to thank our students as well for their patience, their perseverance, and how they have really focused on coming together as a community throughout this. I do want to highlight some of our amazing seniors that are going to walk across the stage, or I guess the field this year. So here's some of our students. We have Alex Watts. This is a student that was announced as one of the 21 outstanding youth leaders in the Georgia Youth Leadership Awards. I'm not going to pronounce his name right, and I wish I practiced it a little better. Yildiz Duranek. This was our 2021 Page Star student for DHS and CSD. Owen Hammond Lee and Anna Immerglock Charles Willock. These are our 2021 merit finalists. Dax Pettis, he was a 2020 City of Decatur Hometown Hero. Also, he was featured on Nationwide on Good Morning America for social justice advocacy. Lagan, she was featured nationwide on Good Morning America as well. And then we have these amazing students who really led the effort for commemorating King in our Decatur team. These are Decatur team members that helped get the MLK marker placed on McDonough Street in West Trinity, and Genesis, Daxis, Haley, and Alonzo. So great accomplishments there. Also wanted to highlight some of our sports and athletic students. We have lots of students that have signed with scholarships to attend different universities. We have 2 of our swimmers that have been selected to get swimming scholarships, Annie Fuker, Haley Laney. And then for baseball, lots of baseball players there too. Marshall Toole, James White, Jack Joyner, Cole Turner, and Alden Wright all have scholarships to attend college while playing baseball. 3 of our track and field students, Kennedy Bivens is going to Livingston College, and then we have Kennedy Turner and Kristen Turner trying to decide between 3 amazing opportunities. So really exciting for these track and field students. And then also several of our football players have gotten scholarships to attend universities as well. Zach Borowski, Isaac Dimmock, Kristen Esnard, Justin Weaver, and Christopher Williams. So great job to our students, athletes as well. As I mentioned, I wanted to share a little bit about our Launchpad for Learning camp. More information will come out about this camp on Friday, but this is a great opportunity for us to partner not just with the city, not just with Decatur Education Foundation, but really a trifecta of amazing support to help our students really build a foundation for a successful start to the 21-22 school year. I know we've got a learning gap that's been out there. We've talked about missed academic time for our students, but I have a strong belief in that the best way to help our students succeed is to accelerate their learning. So we're going to take an opportunity in July to invite students into a camp for 4 days, and we're going to focus on previewing the information and content and skills that they need to be successful when the first day of school starts. So we're going to preview content. So if we know a student in 6th grade needs these core mathematics skills, we're going to preview those for the students in July so that they step in ahead of the game and can be leaders in the content areas for their peers. We're also going to focus on previewing PBIS. So what are the classroom expectations? We want the students to be very comfortable with the school. They've had a really rough year. Even our rising first graders may not have been in the school building this year, so it'll be an opportunity for students to really see the school, walk the school, get to know the routines and procedures, so they're more comfortable on that first day of school. Also, a huge focus here on social and emotional learning, getting students used to being back together with other students. We know some of our students have left their home very little during this pandemic, but we want to help them ease back into what school is going to be like for our students. I'm really excited, as I mentioned, to partner with Decatur Education Foundation. Gail has jumped right in when I proposed this to her and said she is willing to do whatever they can to help out with figuring out different camp activities, to helping us provide scholarships for students that need those. We want to guarantee a spot for every student that wants to participate. And City of Decatur, Claire Miller, who runs their camps and their educational program, is also partnering with us. So that we can have a really exciting experience where it's going to, we're going to set the class size at 15 students for one teacher, and then the Decatur City Education Group is also going to help provide a camp counselor for each of these classrooms. So it'll be 2 adults and 15 students, so we can make sure it's a great experience for all of our students. So we're really excited for this. So just some more details. We're going to run 2 cohorts so we can ensure good social distancing and keep the class sizes small. So we're going to run 1 cohort in July from the July 12th through the 15th. And these are going to be a half-day camp. And then a second cohort starts July 19th and will end on the 22nd. And we are 100% committed to K-8 and still in conversations with the high school about what a 9th grade opportunity would look like. And one of the things when I talk about accelerating student learning is we know 100% that passing algebra your freshman year of high school is 100% essential to make sure you graduate high school on that 4-year track. And if we can give students some of those, make sure they've got those concrete foundations in algebra so they will be successful, their first year through algebra will get them through the door in 4 years to graduate to whatever they want to do next. Cost is going to be $115 per student. We've got sign-up information coming out, and as I mentioned earlier, we will have full scholarships available for any students or parents that need that financial assistance. And I also want to give a shout out at the next board meeting, you'll be meeting our CSD Leadership Academy graduating class. It's a group of teachers that have completed a year of Leadership Academy. And I've tapped I tapped Eddie Johnson, who's a teacher at SAVE, and he's taking up the initiative and leading it through, and he's tapped several of his CSD Leadership Academy peers to help him coordinate the program. It was a great opportunity then to help give our aspiring leaders a leadership chance throughout our district. So really excited for this Launchpad for Learning, and as I said, we'll have more information coming out in the next couple of days. So let's talk about next school year. Again, we've shared this several times, but cannot say it again and again, even more. We are committed to 5 full days of instruction next year. So every day of the week, full days of instruction, that is our full commitment. We are also fully committed to enhanced learning support for students throughout the school year. We know that even with acceleration and a focus on looking forward, we will have students that will need support to be successful in the academic setting. And scaffolding that support for students in their classrooms is going to be essential so that they can keep up and keep pace and do the work that they need to do in the classroom and be successful, and that we will definitely be using the CARES Fund to help us support those efforts. So I do want to talk about mitigation strategies. We have seen in the community that our numbers have been dropping, that it's looking really good, but the CDC still has some pretty strict recommendations on mitigation strategies, so we want to talk through those. Now, what I'll say before I go through these mitigation strategies is that these are what we are trying to do is match as close to what CDC guidance is at this time. But as we go through the summer, if we see the CDC is making recommendations that mitigation strategies can be relaxed, we will definitely follow suit. But we had to make sure we had a plan in place so that we can start day one with a good list of mitigation strategies and prepare. It's much easier to relax mitigation strategies than it is to try to put new ones in place if things get worse. So we know we've got everything ready if things get really bad, we can go all the way into full virtual if we need to, but we also want to make sure that we've got plans in place to have students back in person with full classrooms and proper safety measures in place. So just to review also, how we came up with these mitigation strategies is I spent a lot of time engaging with stakeholders. So I asked our teachers what areas they wanted to talk about and get guidance on for mitigation strategies. I asked parents to send topics that they had for what they wanted mitigation strategies on. I pulled together a subgroup of our mitigation team, some other parents that have been very helpful in informing our practices and what we're going to do going forward. So we met, and the principals joined us for that call as well. We talked about the topics. We said, hey, here's what's the masking policy, what should it be? And we talked through all the different scenarios and what the recommendations were. We drafted suggested practices. We sent it out to the community. I met with our teacher advisory council. They vetted that. And then each principal and department chair took those vetted and proposed mitigation strategies, met with their staff at their local schools, sent feedback, and then department leaders also sent feedback. So this has been very vetted, lots of feedback. The form that was sent for public feedback, we had over 100 responses. So it's not 100% this way, it's not 100% yes on one thing and no on the other. It's pretty 50-50 on a lot of things. So that's where I really had to then go back and look at the CDC guidance and say, what is the CDC recommending for what we can do and what we can make work in our schools? So that's where these recommendations are coming from. So masks is one of the most important mitigation strategies. So we will 100%, unless CDC relaxed guidance, require masks indoors for all individuals. And then we will also require when individuals are outdoor and closer than 6 feet that they should be wearing masks as well. Now this was a bone of kind of one of the areas where people were like, yes, masks outside, no masks outside, and it was really 50-50 as I looked at the numbers. It wasn't really swaying one way or the other. But we will not require masks for students ages 3 and under. So if they're 4 and up, they will have to wear a mask. One of the other things, this is definitely one of the feedback pieces that came through, was making sure people understand when to stay home. If you are showing signs of COVID, do not come to school. Do not come to the building. If you're staff members, talk to your immediate supervisor. If you're a student or you're a parent, monitor those symptoms for your children and keep them home if they're showing signs of COVID-19. I put a picture here of our screener for people to remind them. And I think we need to enhance communication as we get closer to the start of the year, so these are more familiar to our families. Hand hygiene is another no-brainer. We are going to continue with frequent hand washing and use of hand sanitizer. We know 100% that hand washing is preference. Like that is the best way to clean your hands and keep your hands clean is to use good hand washing techniques. But in lieu of, or if immediate hand washing is not available or is not feasible, that you could do hand sanitizer. But the preference is to try to wash your hands as frequently as possible. Social distancing. This is one of those areas that as a school system, I know, and I'm just going to be completely transparent, it's hard for us to do social distancing, particularly when we increase the number of students in our classes. So we do know that I cannot guarantee that we're going to have a guaranteed 3 feet between each student, particularly at our lower elementary schools where students sit at desks, at tables. So with the high school and the middle school, you can spread those individual desks out a little better. In the elementary schools, at a table like this, we might have 6 students. Now we're going to do our best to add tables and spread stuff out as much as possible, but we do want to be very transparent and let people know we are going to try to do 3 feet, but that is not a 100% guaranteed mitigation strategy going forward. But we have lots of other mitigation strategies, and that's why we talk about that Swiss cheese model when it comes to mitigation. It's not one, if you don't do this one particular strategy, everything else isn't good. It's all of them build on each other. Lunch was another big topic of discussion, and we definitely 100%, if people can eat outdoors, if the weather's good, eat outside. We're going to tell parents to send in a towel or a yoga mat, so when the students go outside, they have something they can sit on, take it home and wash it, bring something in the next day. But that is our preference. we know that we won't be able to eat outside every single day. So every building is different. Every building has different class sizes, different numbers of students, different staff members. The buildings are set up different with what the cafeterias look like. So we can't say 100% at a district level, here's what indoor eating will look like. So we have asked our principals to start working with their school teams, their COVID response teams, to develop that plan for what indoor eating will look like. We do not want to eat lunch in the classrooms. That is not the preferred place to eat lunch. So it's not like, hey, we can't eat outside, we have to eat in our classrooms. That was one of the feedbacks that we got from the mitigation team, is that that's not the preference. So really looking at what are some other options for eating lunch indoors. There's this, the recommendation from the team was that when people are actively eating, and that is, if you are picking up your sandwich and you're taking a bite, that's actively eating. But we know a lot of times kids will sit there and they want to have a chat with their friend in between bites. They should put their mask on at that time, and that's perfectly appropriate. Definitely, we're going to adhere to 6 feet of distance between students during lunch because they will be without masks. So we know at that time they won't have masks on, so they will need to maintain that social distancing. And then for assistance in contact tracing, we are recommending that we assign seats or tables. I know at the high school and middle school, it's a little difficult to assign seats. So if you could say, hey, you know, the French teacher comes in and he's got three tables for his kids and he knows they all have to skip a seat, we think that's appropriate for high school and middle school students. We will start the school year with prepackaged lunches to facilitate students getting in through the cafeteria lines at a faster pace. Visitor guidelines, we will start next year with continuing with no visitors at all of our schools. We know there's already a lot going on at a school. Adding visitors to the mix is just another layer of extra things to try to monitor and work out. So we want to definitely start with no visitors at the schools, but then we'll, as I said, as things look better, we can start rolling back mitigation strategies and relaxing some of those policies. The exception here is that at our early learning centers, we know some of the parents, we are going to allow them to take their kids in and drop them off at the door of their classroom. School assemblies, this is a really big one, particularly in our K-5 schools. They do their CRE meetings, they do the CAS call at SAVE, they do the tally rally. We want to keep those. That builds a really great sense of culture at our schools, and we want to keep that going. But what we've asked our principals to do is if you're going to bring together more than one regular-sized class, do those outside, wear masks, do social distancing. If you have to bring kids indoors, maybe do one group indoor, you can put other people online. So think of alternative ways to make those school assemblies more effective. Transportation, we've had really great work on our transportation. As I mentioned, as I visited schools, our bus drivers are cleaning the buses in between routes, they're opening the windows, they're assigning seats, they're distancing the kids as much as possible on the buses. So we're going to continue with that. It's been working really well. Cohorting is another area that is one of those that gets a little more difficult. We have students that get pulled out for EIP, for gifted, for resource classes. So it gets hard if we want to make sure that our students are set up in a nice mixture of teams or homeroom classes. So we are going to cohort as much as we possibly can, but we do not want to limit any in-person services for students because of the cohorting. So principals are looking at this, they're doing the best that they can, but just know that we are going to continue with pull-out services like EIP and gifted and resource classes so that those students can get the services that they need. We feel that that is more important, that they get those services addressed than not continue with those services. And just, we'll be perfectly honest, cohorting at the middle and high school is pretty much impossible, but we feel since those students, most of them will have had the opportunity to get vaccinated, it's not much of a need at that level. For school meetings, whether they're parent meetings or IEP meetings, or if they are faculty meetings, we're going to allow the schools to have flexibility as they want to call in-person meetings, but those, we are asking that those are limited. Ventilation, there is a lot of always discussion about ventilation, but I am very happy to say that we have invested a lot of money and resources into our ventilation systems, and I think they're operating highly effectively. We will be enhancing ventilation by placing HEPA filters in every single classroom. If a teacher has an office space that they use students, if there's not a HEPA filter in there, let us know. We will get one out to that classroom or that office area. And then even the larger spaces like our cafeterias and auditoriums, we have bigger HEPA filters to help manage that increased air. We definitely want to return to daily recess for our younger students. That is essential, particularly at our early learning centers and elementary schools. So we will be returning to recess. CDC did remove the need to clean the recess equipment in between classes, so that is not necessary anymore going forward. But then we also want to make sure that our 6-12 students have math breaks and outdoor activity, outdoor time. I just think getting outside and stretching your legs and getting fresh air is very important for our students, so want to make sure that that's encouraged at all grade levels. We'll continue with our enhanced cleaning procedures. As I said, our schools are spotless. They look beautiful. We're going to continue with that. Additional cleaning supplies, we'll continue to provide those. Additional wiping down of high-touch surfaces. One of the requests has come in a lot in by the teachers and through the public input form was the silicone protectors so that we can clean off computer surfaces if we're sharing materials that way. So we'll be looking at those too. Music classes, we know with K-5, if we're returning to full days, we're going to have our specials classes taught in person. We're going to encourage those staff as much as they can to use outdoor spaces. Additional PPE on musical instruments, so when they are playing air instruments in the band class, they've got like a filter on the end of the trombone or the trumpet to help make those safer. It is okay to sing in a mask. It's not sometimes very comfortable, but it is okay. So we want to make sure that, yes, you can sing indoors. You do need to keep your mask on. And again, additional HEPA filters as needed for those classes. Athletics and extracurriculars. I believe strongly in supporting our athletics and extracurriculars and think that's a huge area that helps our students with social emotional outlets. We've got a really good strategy in place for mitigation for these areas. We're going to continue with that, and really excited that we are going full forward with all middle school sports and extracurriculars so that those students can start signing up and gearing up with that. And I do want to put a special shout out here. The Decatur Bulldog Booster Club, they're looking for a treasurer for next year. So if you know anyone that would be willing to serve in the role of treasurer for the Booster Club, have them reach out to Rodney Thomas for more information about that. I know that's a critical role. The head for the Booster Club says you don't need to be an accountant. You just have to be ready to learn QuickBooks and you can do it. It's pretty easy, she says. So don't be afraid if you're not a full accountant that you couldn't do that job. So quarantine and viral testing, we are going to continue at this point. I had put in the mitigation that was out for public review that we were starting to look at some options for what we could change. We're not ready to announce any changes in that at this point, but right now what we're saying is we're going to continue to follow guidance on quarantines. We did receive approval to viral test symptomatic and asymptomatic individuals. So if you're sitting in a class, and I think this is particularly important for the middle or the elementary schools where you may not be able to keep that 3-foot distancing. So if I'm a student, I'm in the first grade classroom, one of my classmates tests positive for COVID, I sat at the desk with the students, we can offer those students that are even the asymptomatic students in close contact viral testing at this point. So we're really excited to add that mitigation strategy for all of our students and staff. And I just want to touch on vaccinations also came up a lot in the public input form. At this time, because we cannot require vaccines at this time. That's just not something that I feel that we can move forward with. It just creates a lot of issues that I don't think are appropriate to get into, even though I think, and I'll just say me as an individual, would strongly encourage people to talk to their healthcare provider about getting the vaccine and if it's right for them, encouraging them to get that. That being said, some of the feedback on the mitigation strategies was, hey, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to do this. If you're not vaccinated, do this, you have to wear a mask. I don't think we're ready to go that route yet. I think we'll wait and follow the guidance from the CDC on what that looks like going forward. So that is kind of the overview of our mitigation strategies. I feel very confident that it's a good plan. We've got good strategies in place. We've seen the numbers coming down, and as I mentioned here, we will be closely monitoring what the CDC tells us and following that guidance as best as we can to make it work for all the students that want to return to in-person within those parameters. So as soon as they update guidance on procedures, we will look at what we can update and monitor as well, change on our policy. And then the last thing I had to share on my public comment was the FCC has an emergency broadband benefit, and there are eligibility requirements, and you can get up to $50 a month discount on your broadband service, and there's a website here. We'll also post that in my Fehrman's Friday follow-up for additional families. You can access that link there as well. So that concludes my comment.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Fehrman. So on to chair comments, chair report. So I first wanted to congratulate the Decatur High School Musical Theater Ensemble and the Advanced Technical Theater class on their oddly titled but incredibly funny musical You're in Town. So if you missed that performance last week, you can go on demand to decaturperforms.org, and you have till May 14th to watch that. So I definitely encourage you to pull that up. Huge congratulations to our baseball team. They did a fantastic job. They captured the 2021 Region 5 AAAA Championship, and this is and the Decatur baseball program's 4th region championship. So that's awesome. They will be playing again on Thursday, so we'll see if they make it to the 3rd round. So good luck to our baseball team. And a huge shout out and congratulations to the rest of our spring sports teams. We have our baseball, boys and girls lacrosse, who also made it to state playoffs. Our boys and girls soccer finished their season by going to the 2nd round of the state playoffs. Track finished their region meet with boys in 1st place and the girls in 3rd place. Girls tennis went to the 1st round of state playoffs. Boys and girls golf went to the 1st round of state playoffs. Literary and esports are participating in state competitions this year, and literary earned 3 overalls with our girls placing in 4 out of 5 of the events. And there's a plethora of reasons why it's exciting to share news like this, but I also recognize that it's a way of our community and our school district continuing, I should say, to move toward healing. Sometimes when we're in a space of healing, it can feel very painful. It can be intentional, but very painful. But when we have moments like this, it's in the background. The healing is happening in the background. Our kids are shining, and we're able to cheer them on. We're laughing together. We're, cheering together. We're sitting together. We're having great conversations, and that has been sorely missed. I mean, we've been in this pandemic, and we've been worried about getting sick or dying, or family members getting sick or dying, or even lost family members to this pandemic. We've been living in involuntary confinement. People have had fear of job loss. The news is constant and it's bad all the time. We're experiencing much more fear and loneliness probably than we ever have. And if you're a parent, you're worried about your kids and their education, their physical health, their mental health. And these effects could potentially last for years. I mean, I don't think we really are going to know how long and how much we've been affected by that. And so when I was reading these and putting these together, it was a joy to be able to talk about it. Some part of me felt like, oh, should we still be talking about the serious stuff? And should we, we need to talk about it, we need to talk about it. And there is a time and place for that. But there's also a time and place to celebrate. And there's a time and place to be happy and to be joyful when there are things to be happy and be joyful about. So congratulations to our students for allowing me to highlight them today in my board comments. We've also learned that through Dr. Huddleston that we just this week have been accepted to participate in the National Safe Supportive Schools Learning Collaborative. So we are one of 15 school districts in the United States that will help us amplify our mental health services and supports using racial equity lens and strengthen our work around the positive climate pillar of the district improvement plan. So that's huge. As Dr. Fehrman said earlier, it is our goal and it is our culture and it is our way to capture the whole child, and that's including their mental health, and that's including groups that have felt disenfranchised. And so this just speaks to we are moving in the right direction. And we're not there yet. No one probably is, but we are continuing in the right direction, and that makes me very proud to be on the school board and very proud to be a part of this community. So I just want to give a quick shout out to some of our employees who will be retiring this year. We have 2 DHS employees Susan Boutier and Bill Roberts. Oh, Bill Roberts, yeah. They will be retiring this year. We have an ECLC teacher, Ellen Carpenter, 2 FAVE teachers, Carl McLaughlin and Jackie Stevenson, 2 Oakhurst teachers, Laura Deming and Kathy Harbor, or I should say 4 Oakhurst, and Suzanne Hawkins and Kira Wilsterman. So thank you so much for your service to our district, and I wish you all the best on your next venture. And lastly, just wanted to encourage all other parents in our district to read the newsletters that we're sending out. So we have the board newsletter that does go out once a month. We've also started a Monday memo, and that's usually a statement or an update from the board every Monday. Dr. Fehrman has her Friday follow-up, so that goes out every Friday. And we also have the district dispatch. So just wanted to encourage you to read those. We try to keep you informed on what's going on, transparent with the things that you want to know about. But continue to email us, again, if you have any questions that are not answered in those forms of communication. So that concludes my board comments. And we will move on to the next section, and we will get a curriculum and instruction update.
Dr. Beam, are you ready?
I'm ready. Can I share my screen? I think I can. Okay, I think we're ready now. So thank you, Dr. Fehrman, members of the board, colleagues, and community. There have been a lot of discussions. The first thing I want to update you guys on is our Decatur Virtual Academy. So there have been various discussions throughout the past year and even prior to the pandemic about a virtual academy here in Decatur. But on April 2nd of this year, we had enough information and details to move forward. So we began sharing information with the community and we opened the intent form. We have currently 87 students that have expressed interest in attending Virtual Academy next year, beginning in August. The majority are due to COVID and plan to return in person when they deem it safe. Those numbers are also on par with the percentages of students that other local districts are seeing for virtual learning as well. So we are a small but mighty group, and we've decided to move ahead with the planning. We wanted input from teachers, students, and parents, so we created an advisory team, and I'm so grateful for this team's input and everything that they helped pull together for our recommendations that we presented to Dr. Fehrman. So a huge thank you to April Biagioni, Aaron Grady, Jennifer Hallen, Frances Holt, Vanessa Lane, Esther Melton, Derek Peavy, Joanne Pinkney Wilcox, Juliana Suki, Sean Tiernan, our sole student who braved the group, Willie Washington, and Eliza Wingo. I really appreciate all the time and effort that they put into this. So being a small district poses an extra challenge. Let me share my slides. Sorry about that. I got all excited. Okay, so being a small district does pose an extra challenge in how do we create a program that is so small in a cost-effective manner. So that was really the charge of the team. And we did work through it, and I believe that we have developed a viable, cost-effective solution that will allow us to stay within the typical per pupil allocation and create a program that will grow in the future by building on the successes that we create now. So I believe our program will allow us to not only serve and accommodate families that are not ready to return in person due to COVID, but also a variety of other families that this may be a perfect option, such as sports and film families that frequently need to travel for extended periods, our hospital and homebound students, students seeking acceleration or credit recovery, atypical students that simply were not engaged or that did not thrive in the typical school environment. We'll also be able to accommodate our students that we have a wide variety of students that take a wide variety of courses at Georgia Virtual Academy for many reasons during their school day or in the summer. So we'll be able to accommodate those students within City Schools of Decatur. I also believe this is an opportunity for us to reconnect some of our homeschool families and families that are currently attending other virtual programs in the state. So in our team planning process, we utilize the City Schools of Decatur racial equity tool for decision making. We also identified wants and needs of the families, and those included we want CSD quality education, want more flexibility, equitable access for all CSD students and families. We want students to have the opportunity to connect with peers, and we have to find a way to balance the various needs of the K-12 population. I do want to say that there was, we really felt like moving forward with 312, we, as in myself and other district leaders, felt that moving ahead with 312 was probably the best option. We do have some concerns about the educational appropriateness of K2 in virtual. However, there were some opinions and some debate, and due to the fact that due to COVID and the fact that we do have students that may still need to stay virtual until we have a vaccine or until parents feel safe, we are going to pilot that program this year. So anyway, we'll see how that goes, but really we do anticipate the 312 program for sure being a permanent viable option within the district moving forward after next year. So we do plan to partner with an existing K-12 virtual platform that will allow teachers to have the curriculum built for them so that they can focus on student relationships rather than having to build the modules and lessons. We will utilize CSD staff to facilitate the vast majority of the courses. There may be some secondary specialized courses that we still need to outsource potentially to Georgia Virtual, but we anticipate utilizing our teachers for the majority. We will utilize existing resources and support staff to lower the cost of the program. We will create in-person social and learning opportunities for the students to support them as they are able. Our students may participate in CSD activities, extracurricular and sports. We plan to fully continue to engage in CSD equity work and create a reflective and inclusive learning environment. We plan to build a robust option for students to achieve their individualized learning goals, and that does align with the Georgia Department of Education Personalized Learning Initiative to provide students with a tailored personalized school experience to match passions, potential, and post-secondary pursuits. We also envision this to be a learning community with rich online experiences supplemented with in-person opportunities. And we know that this will only be successful with significant family engagement and support. So in K-5, like I said, we know that students need more support. Families will be more involved. There will be more synchronous activities. Teachers will be more involved with the K-5 students. And that requires, it's still going to require a lot of involvement from the adults at home. We will have daily lessons or meetings and or touch points with the teachers. And they will meet with the students either individually or in their groups. The students will also have opportunities to meet with their cohorts and build community with their peers. In 612, it will be a more individualized, customized curriculum that will allow the students to pursue enrichment and their post-secondary interests. The students will work mostly independently throughout the modules, and they can pace it at their own, during their own time during the day. That is what we heard from our secondary students. That was the draw of personalized learning or virtual learning, that they can move at their own pace and schedule it at their own time. So that is definitely a level of independence. We will still have CSD teachers that will facilitate that learning and be available to assist them and certainly check in very regularly. And that's nice. My internet's unstable. So we do anticipate that Decatur Virtual will be a way that City Schools of Decatur can continue to break down barriers and allow students multiple pathways to achieve their post-secondary goals. So next, we have an update on summer school. So we are super excited about the summer programs that we are offering here in City Schools of Decatur, and thank you for allowing us to expand these opportunities for our students. So we do have two options for students this summer. One is an in-person academic intervention program, which will be June 7th through 25th. Decatur High School will be offering a second session in July. Students have been identified as needing a little extra boost for the summer, and so we will be providing that. In K-8, we are focused on priority skills in English language arts and math, and in high school is focused on credit recovery, but we will be offering additional support to work on reading and math gaps as well. We also have open to all students a virtual learning boost, and that is an online program that we will have teachers supporting. Teachers will help students set goals, check in, make sure students are progressing, and it is a mostly independent option. So for families that are traveling or have other plans, this is a great flexible option. We're just asking for at least an hour a week. So if you can commit to that, we would love to have you join. So in K-5, we have approximately 100 students that are signed up currently. It will be at Talley Street Elementary, and we have created a fun camp-like environment. We have an environmental theme, so we will have a wacky water week focused on water activities, up and away focused on air, and we'll have down to earth where we will be looking at earth-related activities. In 6-8, we have about 130 students identified right now, and we will be partnering Kristen Carably has partnered with Decatur Makers to make that a really exciting hands-on activity opportunity as well. At the high school, there are currently about 200 students that have been identified for credit recovery and targeted support. Although I know the 612 teachers are working really hard to get those students passing those classes before summer. So we are still hoping those numbers are going to go down. My next update is something one of our parents mentioned earlier, and that is a K-5 Spanish update. There have been things flying around lately, and I just wanted to give an update and some information as to what is going on, which is anyway, I just wanted to share to try to address some of the questions. So some of the questions in the last week that have come up are about the K-5 Spanish program and time and the number of minutes and all of that. So first, let me assure everyone that City Schools of Decatur is committed to the Spanish program, and there is no desire to remove it from our educational programming. But we also support our principals and allowing them to have the flexibility to make decisions that are best for their school within the district parameters. So district guidance is currently 90 minutes of Spanish instruction K-5 per week. However, that can be divided up a variety of ways. So first of all, we look at what the Georgia Department of Education provides guidance on, and that's 3 models. First is the immersion program, which is 50% of daily instruction in the target language. Next is the FLES program, which simply stands for Foreign Language in Elementary School, which we definitely have. And that their guidance says that the program should meet at least 2 to 5 times a week for at least 20 to 40 minutes per session. So we are well over that as well. FLES programs focus on the development of listening and speaking skills and on cultural awareness. And then the other option is the FLEX program, which is a foreign language exploratory program. That is to introduce students to a foreign language and culture and motivate them to pursue further language study. FLEX classes are usually conducted in English, not in the target language, and although there may be some basic communication in the foreign language. And it may introduce students to multiple languages. So you may have a session or a year in French, you may have a year in German, you may have a year in Spanish. So we believe also that applying the language in context will accelerate learning and provide daily mini immersion experiences. Not only do we believe that, there's a lot of research that supports that. Also, shorter, more frequent exposure is best for language learning. So all of those things being said, we currently offer, there are current schools that are exploring some more efficient, effective overall ways to structure their specials programs to increase instructional time and decrease transitions. Most recently, also, we have our local school agreements, or school level agreements, excuse me, that state that K-5 students, again, receive 90 minutes of instruction. So to adhere to the SLA, and based on all of that information I just shared, schools were provided the guidance, and the Spanish teachers were provided the guidance that we do have the option to restructure Spanish time, meaning if we want to go, for example, just an example, to 60-minute daily special schedules, then we would find a way to incorporate the Spanish teacher into the school day. The Spanish teachers would then have time in their school day to push into the classroom, support the teacher with a Spanish lesson. Some examples that were given: go into math class and we count in English, we count in Spanish. We provide daily brain breaks, they could be in Spanish. We could push in and read a story in Spanish. So there are lots of opportunities for embedding that into the day. So those are just some options. There's no, these are just the things that we provided guidance to the schools. So next is the world language. For next year, we have the world language review coming up. Our K-12 world language teachers already started really diving in and aligning their curriculum this year. And so next year we will do that as a K-12. It is in our cycle of evaluation. And that will be defining the vision, the purpose, the expected outcomes of our K-12 Spanish program, and defining those grade level expectations. So finally, I'm so excited about this. So I thank you so much for letting me update you on our current and upcoming initiatives with the Curriculum and Instruction Department. And now I would like to take a few minutes to reflect on some of our accomplishments from this school year during a pandemic. So my team is dedicated, to researching and providing every teacher in this district with the highest quality resources and support needed for strong implementation of those resources. In City Schools of Decatur, one of our core practices for equity is effective literacy instruction for all students. So we are all very fortunate to have two amazing literacy experts that I get to work with every day, and they focus their passion and their enthusiasm to best serve our teachers and students throughout the district. And our district literacy reading coaches, are Gail Hardwick and Katrina Paget-Smith, and they are here to, they have accomplished so much this year in our schools, and I have invited them to share a few of their accomplishments with you, ladies.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Beam and the board and Dr. Fehrman. We are very excited to share this with you. Katrina and I, CSD's district literacy coaches, are excited to share some highlights that have occurred with literacy during the 2020-2021 school year. We found this graphic to be very fitting as it reminds us of a flower.
Thank you, Gail, and I'm so excited to be here. And we're going to be talking about each of the petals of the flower to share just a little bit about what we've been doing this year. So I'm going to start with the turquoise petal that says curriculum, core curriculum, foundations, tier 1, K, kindergarten through 3rd. This year, CSD rebooted Wilson Academy's Foundations as our tier 1 phonics program in grades kindergarten through 3rd. This multi-sensory structured literacy curriculum based on the Orton-Gillingham approach ensures all students are receiving instruction based on students' instructional needs. As a system, our instructional practices are being unified to build equitable practices for every student while accelerating learning with high quality, research-based Tier 1 instruction.
Yes, and moving on to the green petal, we are very excited about our newly adopted core curriculum for grades K-5. American Reading Company's high-quality, comprehensive core curriculum, ARC Core, includes culturally responsive, thematic, inquiry-based units of study that integrate reading, writing, science, and social studies content in a student-centered learning environment. ARC will become part of our culture here at CSD. And we are very excited because the ARC literacy team will be providing job-embedded professional development where they work side by side with homeroom teachers and leaders in each school. Additional professional development will be delivered by us, the district reading coaches, throughout the year to ensure fidelity and provide continued support.
We'll be moving on now to the Read-Alouds, the Dyslexia Pilot, kindergarten through third grade. In accordance with State Bill 48, CSD's Curriculum and Instruction Department developed a system to support the requirements of the Dyslexia Pilot. Our goal is to identify students who may have characteristics of dyslexia and provide the support they need as early as possible to ensure they reach and stay on grade level. The results from these assessments are not intended or designed to diagnose dyslexia. Their purpose is to identify children who are experiencing reading difficulties that may require extra support and ensure support is targeted to each student's need. The Dyslexia Pilot is data-driven and student-centered. Our two Tier 1 programs that we just talked about, Foundations and our Core, both support students with characteristics of dyslexia while building all students' literacy skills with research-based instructional practices.
Thank you. And next, let's move to the pink petal, letters. Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling, also known as LETTERS, is a professional development course that empowers teachers to gain deeper knowledge of the what, why, and how of literacy instruction based on the most current scientific research. LETTERS was developed by Dr. Louisa Moats and Dr. Carol Tolman. These are two nationally renowned leaders of the science of reading. Here at CSD, we began our first cohort this school year, including teacher leaders throughout the district and district leaders, including Dr. Christy Beam. We are 1 year into this 2-year course. In addition, Katrina and I are being trained to become district facilitators for LETTERS. As facilitators, we will provide the direct connections from LETTERS content knowledge for teachers to apply these practical classroom applications.
The next petal, the purple petal, is the Paraprofessional Learning Series. Throughout the school year, Gail and I offered professional development opportunities to kindergarten through second grade paraprofessionals. The goal of the Paraprofessional Learning Series was to equip paraprofessionals with literacy tools to support students. Some of the topics in the series were highlighting key foundations practices, the power of phonemic awareness, learning the difference between sight words and high frequency words, accelerating learning with small groups, and preparing for the next school year. The sessions were offered approximately 2 times per month, and the feedback was very positive, and it exemplified the importance of ensuring all staff members are given the opportunity to grow professionally in order to accelerate learning for all.
Now to the gold petal. The Hegerty Phonemic Awareness Curriculum is a research-based program for foundational literacy. These lessons are meant to supplement an existing core literacy curriculum and provide explicit teacher modeling and support for students. We are thrilled that all pre-K through first grade classrooms will implement Hegerty. This will strengthen and unify our instructional practices. In addition, Katrina and I will build teachers' instructional capacity by supporting Hegerty's implementation. Now, in the midst of all the ups and downs associated with COVID, CSD's Curriculum and Instruction Department is happy to report that teaching and learning was still blooming in the halls and walls of our schools and home offices.
We are thankful to the board and our district leadership for empowering us to continue to build equitable practices while ensuring high quality Tier 1 instruction to accelerate learning for our CSD scholars. And a special thank you to the teachers and paraprofessionals that allowed us to support them through this unforgettable year. We are truly looking forward to continued growth in literacy during the 21-22 school year. We thank each of you for your time and attention this evening.
Thank you so much, ladies. So as you can see, I get to work with these amazing superstars. And just so you know who they are, I believe I got nervous and I reversed Miss Smith Paggett's name. So this was Gail Hardwick and Katrina Smith Paggett. Thank you so much, ladies. They are just a breath of fresh air every day to work with. I'm very fortunate. Thank you all for letting us speak.
Thank you so much for those updates on everything. That was extremely informative, and I was very glad to hear. Do we have any questions from the board members? For Ms. Beam?
Well, I did have one quick question.
Yes, I did.
The Launchpad program, I'm confused. Is that a summer school program or is it an after school program?
It is a program being held during the summer. It's not, quote, summer school.
Okay.
It's an additional opportunity to accelerate student learning before the kids come into the classroom. So those kids could be summer school kids in June.
Okay.
They may also attend the Launchpad for Learning camp in July.
Okay.
They can do both.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just along those lines with the Launchpad, are they going to be identified like the kids were for the summer school programs, or is this something that any parent can?
Any parent can sign up, but we will be looking at students that we think will definitely benefit from the program and reaching out to those families to make sure they are aware of the program, know that there's financial support if they want to join the program, and also looking at opportunities if transportation is an issue to make sure we can get those students to the building.
Okay, perfect.
So I have a comment, which is that I really appreciated that presentation. And, I like hearing what's going on, and I thought that was particularly well done. I also have a question, and I'm on shaky ground here, so I'm going to ask the question, which I think makes a point.
Okay.
And if it doesn't, I'll be a little bit embarrassed, but I think it does. I think that our two reading specialists, Ms. Paggett and Ms. Hardwick, are two of the new people who are assigned to central office staff.
You're correct.
And so, when we get these comments that why do you have these people who work in central office? These are the people who work in central office. It's
Yes.
These reading programs. This is core instruction
Exactly.
that we're providing. And so this idea that we have this bloated central office is just false. And really what people are asking is that we sort of dismantle these programs that we're trying to build so that we're trying to deliver excellent educational programming that's consistent and it's up to the CSD standards instead of leaving it to each individual class and each teacher to figure it out.
Yep.
If you want consistency and excellence, we need Ms. Paggett and we need Ms. Hardwick to coordinate this work for the district. That's where that money's going, and that's why we have those expenses. And if you look at the central office staff per, and you were good enough to send the analysis, James, central office staff per 350 students is the metric that had been developed that we had been using. That number is going down. Over the past 10 years, was it 24% less?
Mm-hmm.
It's decreasing. It's not increasing. And so if you ask why from our budget hearing earlier, why are the expenses going up? I think we heard it earlier today. $4 million in COVID expenditures, $1.3 million in lost state funding, lost revenues across the board. That's why your millage rate needs to go up, because we have to cover those costs. It's not because of central office staff. And if you ask why has the millage gone up, increased student enrollment. We've opened Tally Street. Every time we've ever opened a school, it's been a one millage hit. And in this case, I think that we're a little bit under that, actually. You've got issues from the senior exemption, and you've got, in this case, COVID. And so, I just want to put to rest this notion that there's any financial problems in this school. We are soundly managed and always have been. That hasn't changed. And right now, there's some challenges presented by COVID, but they're well under control, and we're dealing with them. And what we're delivering is what you saw just now. So,
I just want to piggyback just on the work of Ms. Hardwick and Ms. Paget. As a former Renfro remedial reading teacher, I'm so excited to see these programs because I know how impactful they will be. and potentially reducing the number of students who will be in those classes. And so I'm really excited about all of those programs.
Just so I know, you all talked about the Dyslexia Pilot, and I know it's not, testing everyone, but it's kind of identifying and training people in the Orton Gillingham background so they can do that. And that's great to hear. I mean, since I've lived in Decatur, that's been a major request and issue, and so I'm glad that we're dealing with that. Is that the focus? That seems like that's going along with the paraprofessional. I'd just like to hear a little bit more about that and sort of like what the purpose of that pilot is.
Okay, yes, the Dyslexia Pilot is from State Bill 48, and the goal is we use universal screeners to identify students that may be showing some risk with reading, and we give multiple screeners, and we're really trying to identify the area of weakness and make sure that they're receiving the additional support. So that, we sometimes some of these students may already be receiving tier 2 or tier 3 services, but the key is to make sure the intervention that they're receiving is aligned to their area of weakness. So it's really just identifying students as quickly as possible, making sure that they're getting the needed support, and that support is aligning to their area of weakness.
That's great. Thank you.
This is a question for Dr. Beam. I wondered if you could elaborate on how students could participate in the summer program. I know you said that some are being identified, but others would be able to participate in the more self-directed program where they're checking in weekly. How do those students sign up for that?
Yeah, so we have about 150 students already signed up. It has been in the district dispatch. I believe it's also on the website. We can send that one more time. I believe this week there's a dispatch going out, and the deadline is this weekend. So yeah, just sign up. And like I said, next week we will organize those by teachers, and we will get more information out. So that is open to anyone, and there is no charge for that. And we will, provide about 6 weeks of online learning. It will be self-paced. We are expecting at least an hour a week, and it's with one of our personalized learning paths that we already have in place in the district.
Okay, and I have one other question. I wondered if you could just clarify what is changing with the Spanish program?
Absolutely nothing. It was just, no, there's nothing changing. There had been some requests or some exploration of the schools looking at some different options with their specials programs, looking at, instead of, some schools do 3 30-minute sessions, maybe looking at going to 45-minute specials or 1-hour specials or different things. Just because when you have a lot of transitions, you lose a lot of instructional time. And I know at Glenwood, getting the little kindergartners from PE to Spanish up 2 flights of steps, you lose a lot of time. And so there was just been some conversation about that. And like I said, the guidance that we provided was, certainly principals have the opportunity to do that, but we need to look at where we're going to put those 90 minutes. And there's lots of opportunities to embed that in the classroom. But to my knowledge, right at this moment, I don't know of anybody that's necessarily doing that. It's just exploration. So.
We were getting questions from the community, so I just wanted to be clear about that. I really enjoyed the presentation, and I really want to thank you, all of you, for all of your work regarding the literacy. And we all know how important that is, especially when we have heard over the years about whether a child can read fluently by 3rd grade really determines whether they're going to be on the path to graduation. And so these foundations really, I think, are going to put us on a solid path to helping our students on their way to literacy. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. I definitely think we will see the results.
Awesome.
Oh
yeah, go ahead, Luke.
I had meant to comment on Spanish as well, and I'm agnostic about the presentation today, so I'm not really commenting about the change or the flexibility. But I did want to emphasize, at least for me, and I think this is it has in the past been a shared priority that we as a board put on the World Languages program. And, I would put it up there as a core program. I think that it's just incredibly important that we continue to offer all languages. And, you know, there are challenges, there's all kinds of other things that you need to do, everything needs to be balanced, but if I'm designing the curriculum that's going to be right up there with math, reading, and, you know, English, and when we went from 5 days a week Spanish and started cutting back a couple of years back, was it 2 years ago? I don't remember. Three years ago. One of essentially the deals sort of that we struck, and this is why I'm bringing this up, is that at the time we were told, yes, we're offering 5 days a week Spanish, but the program is not as effective as you might think it is. And so we've got 5 days a week Spanish, but we're not necessarily getting sort of 5 days a week value out of it. And our world languages program hasn't really been coordinated across the district, and so it's been very uneven and very spotty and not always as effective as it might be. We believe that we can be more effective delivering fewer minutes and still keep the program good. And the board discussion that we had at the time is that, well, that's good. It's disappointing because we always thought that our 5 days a week, you know, I was very proud of it. And so now I'm told that it wasn't that good. And that raises the problem that we need a really good, objective, and rigorous way to evaluate what we're doing, and which we don't have right now. Now, we've instituted the STAMP program, which is intended to get us that baseline data so that we can really kind of analyze what we're doing and how effective it is. And the problem is it got a little bit interrupted by COVID. I think, was this going to be the first year that we're getting the data?
We did baseline data last year, and this is going to be the second year.
Okay, so we've got baseline data.
We actually have 2 years of data
Oh, okay, great.
because we gave it right before we closed in March 2020.
Right.
And the only reason I'm mentioning this is that I want folks to know that as we tinker with the Spanish program, there is an effort afoot to evaluate it really rigorously and systematically so that we can actually look and say, well, is it true that this is just as effective as the other way? And so we're working to get it on a footing where we can actually really assess that. And so going forward, that's what we're going to be looking at. Is when the individual school principals experiment, is it working? Well, that's what we need to know. And then if it is, that's great. And so I just wanted to emphasize that this is how we're sort of approaching that problem.
Thank you. Yes, and I will be back when school starts back, and we will talk about the plan for evaluating that, and not only evaluating it, but it's not just the minutes. It's, you know, what are the outcomes? What do we expect from our Spanish program? And how can we, like you said, make it most effective? And so we will talk about that, and hopefully, you know, not hopefully, we will engage the community and, you know, make that process very transparent. You know, looking at, there's a lot of research on integrating it into the content areas and various different options for doing that. And so anyway, yeah, I'm totally supportive of that. My husband's a native Spanish speaker, and so I am a huge advocate of language programs. You know, we just want to be sure that we are, like you said, doing it the most effectively for our students.
Awesome, thank you. And I did have one question about the Decatur Virtual Academy, Dr. Beam. And if you could stop sharing your screen just for a second.
Thank you.
So we have the 87 students that have been identified that potentially will participate in virtual, majority being COVID and some being will potentially be there for the entire year. Is that now officially closed, or do we have kind of a cap as where, you know, how does that look? Do we still have that open for parents to participate if they change their mind?
We don't. What we published back in April when we sent out the information is that we received the intent. And so now what we will do is provide parents within the next upcoming weeks with a very detailed schedule of what their child's day will look like. And then, you know, they will have the opportunity to say, yep, we want to move forward, or no, this really isn't for us. And therefore, based on that, Dr. Fehrman and I discussed a number of 100 so that we have an idea of how many students we can accommodate. So that's kind of our cap. So we do have even now a little bit of space, but we have not reopened that yet until we have all the details out there. We've also discussed, the what ifs, the what's going to happen if there's, some horrible variant, things go awry again in the summer and things like that, which isn't going to happen. But should it, then we would have the plan B if we would have to revert back to something like we are doing now, where the schools assign, a teacher on a grade level for virtual. So we do have some options, plan A, plan B, plan C. We want to be sure that we're going into next year with a solid plan on various things that could happen. So we would be looking at, early July, if there is something, parents can say, I'm not safe to go back or what have you. So we have been looking at various options.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Okay.
Do you have anything you wanted to add?
I just wanted to thank Christy and her team. They've done a lot of hard work, and also the advisory team that helped Dr. Bean come up with the plan for Virtual Academy. It was very much a collaborative effort between Dr. Bean and the advisory team. She gave them some options. They gave her some things to think about. So I really liked how she collaborated with that advisory team to come up with a plan that I think will really meet the needs of our students and provide this virtual learning option that I think is greatly needed in our system. Also want to thank Katrina and Gail for their hard work on the literacy work that they've done. That is one of our core practices for equity in our instructional framework. We've been investing 3 years of work in our literacy project, and this is the final fruition of what we have. So now we're ready to start looking at what is the next topic that we can really jump into in our core practices for equity, so that we have a very strong base in our instructional framework. So thank you both for all your hard work. It is amazing to see what you were able to accomplish. Thank you.
One thing. Dr. Bean threw out something that I really wanted you to just speak on, which is that there's like a service level or SLA agreement.
Yes.
It changes to like the hours that are provided by Decatur don't just like happen under like the threat of night. You wake up one morning and Spanish has changed. And I asked you about that because I gave you a call and you had a really good answer. If you don't mind talking about like how if some change like that started to happen.
Right. Yeah, so they're way back, I'm not sure when these were created. They were there when I got here 3 years ago, and they're school or service level agreements. So it's some agreements that the district has set. One is we have an instructional coach at every one of our schools. Another one is the 90 minutes of Spanish. Other ones are, hey, students every week in K-5 will have this much PE time or average of this kind of support time. Teacher that protects teacher planning time as well. So those are the agreements set at the district level. And then the schools have flexibility to do what works for their school. So a school like Oakhurst is double the size of a school like Glenwood. So how their schedule works and how they can manage running classes through their specials programs is going to look different. So we can't say every school has to run their Spanish program this way, because it's just not going to work logistically for how they can schedule and staffing. So there's that flexible option. So we kind of give them the fence, and then they say, here's how we can make that work within our school and within the parameters that we have.
And changes to the fence.
We don't change the fence.
Okay.
And if the fence changes, that would be a board discussion.
Right. Awesome, thank you for that detailed explanation.
Yep.
All right, so moving on to consent items, we have our financial report, school nutrition, personnel report. We need to approve the safety and security upgrades at DHS and Winona Park, approve a bid addendum for school nutrition program vendor, an active panel purchase and installation, and also multi-function device lease. Do we need to pull out any of those for discussion? All right, do I have a motion to approve the consent items?
I move to approve the consent item.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And now we'll move on to our items for action, information, and discussion. And so the superintendent appointment, is this where we go over the contract, or we already did that?
I think we're good.
We already do this in the
We already
beginning.
did that. In the beginning, what? Okay.
Check.
Right. It's been a very long day. All right, so next we will talk about the tentative approval of millage rate fiscal year for 2022.
So the proposed fiscal millage rate is raising the millage rate to 21.0 from 20.5.
So do we have a motion to approve the millage rate to 21?
I move that we tentatively, pending feedback from the May property, set it at 21.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, board. Let's move on to our wellness action plan change.
Gotta do the fiscal budget for action.
Say again?
So the actual budget, so you make a
Oh,
motion to.
I skipped the, yeah.
It's all crammed in there.
All right, and now we will go over the fiscal year 2022 final budget approval.
And that is the budget that was presented in the hearing right before the start of the general meeting.
All right, so a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022 final budget?
Move to approve the fiscal year 21-22 final budget.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Should we have any discussion?
Oh, any discussion? I'm sorry, any discussion?
Go ahead.
I have one point, which was only that when we approved the millage, which is tied with the budget, we said that it was a tentative approval of the millage. And I wanted to emphasize the point that the tentativeness of it is because we don't yet know the property digest. So we don't yet know what to expect in taxes. And so, in Ms. Broom's presentation earlier, she'd indicated that the maximum, based on the worst case projection, in other words, the least expected income from property taxes, we would need to raise the millage to 21 in order to keep a 4% funding. But what we've just approved by approving it tentatively is that we're going to adjust it based on the property tax returns and hope that it can come in less than 21. I just wanted to make that clarification.
And we already received the fund, we already know what we're getting in our CARES funds. That we've already.
CARES funds, yeah.
Okay, so it's just the
money for the tax side.
Okay, perfect. So Jana?
And I had two questions. One was the question that we got during public comment. Are you able to address some of the things that were cut?
So what we did to be able to move the to decrease the millage rate from that higher level to the 21 is we looked at teachers that were being paid out of the EIP teachers. So the CARES fund allows us to pay salaries for staff that provide remediation services. So we have many staff already on our payroll that provide remedial services. Mm-hmm. So what we did is we moved those salaries for 1 year to the CARES fund so that we didn't have to pay them out of general fund. So that allowed us to decrease the spending out of general fund. We didn't cut any programs. We basically moved the staff from one bucket to another bucket so that we didn't have to raise the millage rate as high. And then there were 3 special ed positions in the general fund that were to provide support for the virtual program. But after looking at our special ed allotments, we didn't need 3 of those special ed teachers, so we took those out of the budget. So that's how we were able to keep the millage rate down, was moving payroll into CARES fund for a year, and then as teachers matriculate out or retire next year, we can scoop those teachers back into the general fund.
Okay. So there weren't really any programs that were.
0 programs.
Okay, great. And my last question is about tuition. I know we had discussed tuition for students who didn't live in the district, but we're not going to do that now.
No, yeah. And this decision was made before I took the interim position, is that we wouldn't do tuition-based payment for students to come to City Schools of Decatur.
Did we?
And why was that?
I don't remember deciding that.
Yeah, that's all I'm confused.
Yeah.
Because we've been recently having conversations about specific grade levels.
Yeah. Right, and it was deciding on what grade levels, and I think we narrowed it down to potentially middle school and high school. And I think the last question was, do we give them a time frame, or do we agree that once they're in the system, they're in the system?
Right. I think the board was unanimously in favor of exploring it, subject to what y'all found about
those 2 different options.
Okay, so that then is where I didn't pick that back up and keep it moving forward. But if that's something you guys want to continue looking at, I'm happy to see what we can put together.
And it came down to whether we thought we needed to do that to balance any sort of class sizes. It's sort of counterintuitive because we're actually trying to reduce class sizes in some ways, but if there were places where it did make sense, since at our elementary schools, it's not always evenly distributed. We were considering that, but what were you thinking about the middle school and the high school? Again, where did that land?
Yeah, we were pretty open to that, and it looked like there was, space enough to do that. And so I think it just came down to, should we offer it for a limited time, or should it be for life? And I think that's where we left it off, just trying to figure out what the pros and cons of both of those options would be. But it was also presented to us in a way to add more to, our budget, you know, so we're bringing in a source of income.
Okay. So we've got a June work session coming up, so we'll put together a presentation and have more numbers, and we can present that, for your review at the work session.
Okay. I think it was, we were open to it, and it was gonna take some analysis to ensure that it wasn't going to cost us more than we would earn from them. Like, we would only want it to, like, incrementally fill out classes, but then we have to also plan for how these students would move through the system.
Yes.
But not make it so that we would need to hire another teacher or install another learning cottage, you know, because those benefit costs would way offset the benefit of taking on that student. So I think we've basically left it open to needing more analysis, but open to the idea.
Definitely still open to the idea.
Okay. All right, yep. We'll pull some scenarios together and share those at the June work session.
Yeah.
All right, that's perfect. Thank you.
One comment on our budgeting process. This was the first year that we had a variable millage rate in our conversation as opposed to a variable fund balance in our conversation. And I think we all agreed on principle that that's what we felt was important, to say this is what we need to keep our school strong, and then see where that landed on the millage rate, which I think was not well understood by the community. I think we had a lot of sort of confusion or backlash, and perhaps it's because it was a new approach, and also because we maybe needed to do more emphasis around what that meant, and that it was draft and worst case, and it was with, you know, in January, a long list of unknowns. We didn't know yet what the state funding was gonna be. We didn't know what CARES, you know, there were many unknowns, not just now, the last unknown, which is the property tax digest. But I'm thinking that at a future work session, we probably need to discuss our approach to budget and just see if, like, how we all feel about how this went this year and what we may do again or what we might want to change. Because I do feel like there was a disconnect with the community in how we approached our budget. We would have landed in the same place, I believe, but the conversation would have been different because we would have seen, instead of a higher millage rate as a draft, we would have seen an extremely low fund balance. Neither are acceptable, but I think that it did awaken different kinds of feelings in the community, and it was a new approach, and I think we just need to talk through that.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've been reflecting on going through as a new superintendent through the budgeting process is more like looking at the budget long term instead of, hey, we're in the budget season, let's start putting the budget together. So just because we voted on the budget, we're gonna go through the next steps and approve the budget, whatever the June and July meetings are, show us with the tax digest and the millage rate, is putting together a budget committee that is maybe one or two board members, Lanita, and any community members. I'm thinking like a member from each of our local school SLPs to help look at it long-term, look at all the ins and outs of it, and make sure that there is that parent connection through the SLPs being able to provide input and being that conduit between the local school communities and the board through a committee. So I think that might be a way for us to look at it in a wider perspective and get more input and information out to the community about it.
Just one, well, this is a discussion maybe for a retreat or something.
Yeah.
But our sort of working philosophy has been to avoid committees.
Oh, okay.
As a board, very much intentionally.
Okay.
We had one committee And I think that might be a good reason not to have another one. I just think it creates some difficult dynamics.
Gotcha.
And, but there's some philosophy behind it.
Okay, well, that's good.
But that doesn't mean not to have a committee, it means not to have a board committee.
Gotcha, understood.
So you get your input and whatnot, but.
Okay, we can discuss that at the day-long work session, not the retreat. All right, so any further discussion on the final budget? All right, so do I now have a motion to approve the 2022 final budget approval?
Oh, yes.
Well, the tentative is the millage rate.
Definite motion to approve the tentative millage.
We already did that one. So this is just for the final budget approval.
This is the final budget.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
So I move to approve the fiscal year 2022 final budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So let's move on now to the wellness action plan change. Are you presenting that, Dr. Fehrman?
I am, and it's just some minor changes to the wellness action plan. Luke's name was still in there, so the wellness action plan, there's really not much of a change. It's just bringing some stuff up that needed corrected there.
Okay.
And then the mealtime period, as I shared about in the mitigation strategies, the government sets some timelines for students to eat lunch. 10 minutes, I think, for breakfast, 20 minutes for lunch. And what we're proposing is a 1-year waiver so that we can decrease eating time to match the exposed quarantine time. So it would be active eating without a mask 15 minutes. Because if you're exposed to someone more than 15 minutes, then you're close contact. So that we're just trying to follow the guidelines of the CDC with our mealtime eating. So it's just proposing that we do a waiver next year because of COVID to decrease lunch by active eating time. Now, they'll still be in the cafeteria longer than 15 minutes, but just saying the guidelines say, hey, by the time the kid sits down to the time the kid's dismissed, it should be 20 minutes. We just want to make sure we're following, everyone's aware that this is a deviation from standard policy.
I appreciate that you brought it as a change to the plan. I think it makes total sense. I like to see it reflected in the fact that we're changing the plan to do it.
So,
okay, thank you
for your information.
And then we have go ahead, Louis.
I realized that, and when we did the agenda, there's no future business on there, and there's one item I had wanted to bring up.
Future date?
No, it's not a future date, it's a future business. It's an item that I'm,
that
like to propose to be taken up by the board.
And I realized I thought maybe under wellness action plan, I apologize, but the student center that we got to visit, it's opened up at the high school. I was hoping that would draw a little attention. I know not everyone is open, but it was a collaboration between DEF and CSD, but there's a student center now that if you are listening, or if you own or you have a student in high school, I encourage them to go by. It is absolutely beautiful. It looks like a coffee shop. It actually literally is some old furniture from a coffee shop, and it's a really lovely place. I thought maybe it might be under the wellness action plan, but that's why I didn't bring it up earlier. There you go.
Yes, it is great.
Thank you for all the hard work that went into that.
Well, that was that team.
Yeah.
Incredibly important.
So we can go over the board newsletter real quick, and then we can do future business. Do we have a draft in here? Is there anything in particular that you would like to share with Shana on what we would like in the newsletter?
I thought you had a suggestion.
Yeah. This is the monthly newsletter that we send out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we just send it out to everyone, because I don't have it fresh in my head?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll work on that.
Does it go out last month?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we could start with that, and then I guess add to it, but I think I just need some time to look at it.
Yeah, and I'll be, I'm setting up a joint press conference with the chair of the Decatur County School Board, probably this week, to talk about the bill that we passed. So that will probably be sometime this week, so that'll be something we could potentially add to to the newsletter as well, because I know there was a point when we weren't really talking much about it, so we can do that now. That was a long time coming, so we need to celebrate it.
Yeah, the language in the newsletter suggested on the desk, he signed both of those.
Yes,
Those signed.
he did, they signed both of them.
Monday.
Monday, yeah. All right, and then, okay, so, and then any other comments about the board newsletter? So we'll just have Shayna send that out and just make sure we all look at it. I think she wants to get it out by Friday, okay? And future business?
So I wanted to bring up an issue that we have discussed off and on for years, but it's one that we've never closed the loop on. And this has to do with people in the community who are in our school system who want to renovate their homes, but while the home is being renovated, they need to move out, to live somewhere else while the construction's going on. And I had a personal connection with somebody in this position a number of years ago, and they worked very hard to try to figure out how they could stay in the school system, even if they're, the rule technically is that, the schools are for the residents of the city of Decatur, and the residents are people who put their head on a pillow inside the Decatur city limits, most nights. And so if there's a year when you're not doing that, you're living outside the city limits, technically you're not a resident. And that has never seemed really to make sense to me, but I know in this one case that family wound up leaving the school system, because where they had to go live while they're doing their renovations was somewhere else. And we had some issues with the students at the Decatur Housing Authority at one point, and went through quite a rigmarole to make sure that they could stay in the system while displaced as a result of the renovations. But in order to make that happen, again, it was kind of a one-off special circumstance where we had everyone sign affidavits saying that they're displaced and intend to return, which was the right result. It's just that it would be nice to what I'm proposing is that we actually address this in our policies to the extent that we can. But I believe it makes complete sense that if you are a Decatur homeowner and you are paying taxes on a Decatur home while renovating it, so long as you're not accepting rent, right? It's one thing if someone's renting out their home, but if they're not paying rent and they're continuing to pay their taxes while they live somewhere else, and if this does not continue for more than some period of time, and I don't know what the right, I would assume that 12 months would do, maybe 18 months, I don't know what the right period of time is. But that we should consider those people to be still Decatur residents, if they're just displaced during the renovation. And I would propose that we look to addressing that in an explicit change to our policy, so those people confronting these questions can actually have the assurance that they need to do it on the up and up. And maybe there's a requirement that you come in, and there would be a requirement that you come in and say, this is what I'm doing, so that when people ask questions, it's all on the up and up. So this is future business. I'm proposing that we take this up. I'm proposing that maybe we come forward with a draft, put it out for comment, see what feedback we get, make sure it's on the up and up legally. But I just wanted to raise it and kind of put it on the agenda. So.
Okay. That's a good idea. We can dig into that. Okay. Anybody else want to talk about future business or future dates?
There was one thing I thought you were going to say that you didn't say, but there's been a discussion about class rank off and on.
Oh,
and
good.
That came up, years ago. It's kind of resurfaced this year because it's our crazy year, and I wonder if it's landed somewhere or if it's still a discussion.
It is going to be also on the June work session agenda. So Rochelle and Kim Jones will be leading a presentation on that, and we have a couple suggestions to present to the board at the work session, and if it's something you're amenable to, it'll move to the June board meeting for an action item.
Great.
Do we have a date for that?
The June work session, yes.
I'm concerned about how many items have been mentioned for the June work session. Well, in all seriousness,
it's 3 days long?
These meetings are just beginning to sort of
It is
metastasize.
June 1st, 5:30.
I'm joking, but we need to not, I'm serious. We can't have.
Well, hopefully we do more at the work session so that less has to happen at the actual board meeting.
It's just not, it's not a full-time job.
Yeah, I didn't know that, so June 1st at 5:30?
I'm gonna be traveling June 1st. I didn't have it on my calendar.
Okay. Are you gonna be actively traveling during that time? Okay. Good for you.
Oh, I forgot to order CPS.
But, I mean, we will be traveling, because,
Okay.
yeah.
Jana, the only way that I keep any of this straight is because Shayna puts us on the board work calendar. Have you figured out how to
Okay.
subscribe to that?
I have not.
Ask
I
someone.
have, because when I get the emails, I'll go ahead
Add it
and
to
put it on my calendar.
Okay, we'll work with you, we'll help you with that.
Eston's waving at you as we speak.
He got you.
That's right.
And usually when I say yes is when it comes onto my calendar, but I don't remember seeing it in there for me to say yes to. So, all right.
Is it possible to have pick a different date?
We can look at that, yeah.
And your hope is that, because we typically have done, work sessions fourth Tuesday. Not always, but it was kind of we'd have our board meeting second Tuesday, work session fourth Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it got.
So I don't know if it got bumped or something.
The 25th has the Wilson Center, retiree celebration from 4:30 to 5:30, and then from 6 to 6:15 is the millage rate hearing, so we could, maybe we could do it that night, right after the millage rate hearing.
That's on, what day was that?
On May 25th.
Oh, May 25th.
Let me check with
Oh,
the
you
high
said
school.
May
I know that
May.
last week.
We have the board work session on the 21st.
So there's nothing on the board calendar on May 25th. There should be, it's missing.
Anything on there?
No, I think did you mean May or June?
She said,
Well, I was gonna move it 1 week earlier. It's either the Tuesday before the board meeting, or it's the Tuesday after, the other work session. We've got something every week.
Could we do it on the fourth Tuesday, the 22nd?
The 22nd? If we kind of got back into that rhythm of doing them on the fourth
I think
Tuesday.
having a rhythm is kind of important, actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm flexible.
But I don't know what we're talking about now. You're talking about June 22nd?
Right, so just, tentatively keeping
There's a
the
third
fourth
tax
Tuesday
bill
open.
rights meeting that
Do you want to
night
meet
at 6,
after
and
the
then at 6:15, we're supposed to adopt the millage rate, so we
On
could
the
do it right
22nd?
after that.
We could do that right after that, we're gonna be here anyway.
We could move to the 22nd after the millage rate.
Okay.
Does that work for
So
everybody?
that's the-
Work session, June 22nd.
So we'll do the millage rate, the last millage rate hearing,
On the 22nd?
and then just have a board session right after that.
Okay, do a work session.
Nothing on the 1st.
Nothing on the first. And we can just, I would think, keep that tentatively open, that pattern,
Yeah.
if we feel like we need to have it. And then we all already know that to keep that date open each month.
All right.
All right, perfect. Any other business before we adjourn? All right, thank you all who have stayed with us through the entire night. It's 9:15, we are adjourning our board session. Good night, everyone.